3881. 3881. Chapter 3881, The Technological World. Day after day passed, and within the world mist, time seemed to lose all meaning, even space itself became illusory. However, with the myriad worlds in his possession, Lin Moyu adjusted the flow of time within it to match the origin continent precisely. This made it much easier for him to keep track of time. As a result, he could clearly know how far he had traveled in the world mist and how many years had passed. By the third year of his journey, the chaos region woven from the yin and yang of the myriad worlds and bone hell was already filled with undead servants. Trillions of undead servants quietly waited in the chaos region, bathed in the aftermath of shattered souls. After this, Lin Moyu stopped summoning. Trillions of undead servants were enough. If even that many undead servants couldn't handle an enemy, then summoning more would be pointless. Lin Moyu estimated that if he entered the Jumu Great Spirit Domain again, even those top-tier world lords would find it hard to kill him. If he encountered another Great Tao Desolate Beast King, these undead servants could wear it down to death. Unless someone like the human emperor intervened, Lin Moyu basically had no fear for his life. His strength was already sufficient. Now, the main problem was how to retrieve his true spirit imprint from the origin continent's world will. As long as his true spirit imprint hadn't returned, it was as if a sword hung over his head, ready to be sacrificed at any time. In the 5th year after he left, Lin Moyu suddenly sensed that his soul world had touched the edge of the origin continent. The real world and the soul void correspond to each other to a certain degree. As he moved through the real world, his soul world and the soul void shifted position accordingly. Of course, this correspondence wasn't absolute. Lin Moyu had already traveled far from the origin continent, but his soul world was still within its boundaries. It wasn't until 5 years later that his soul world reached the edge of the world. At this point, it had gone as far as it could. It was impossible to leave the origin continent. This was a law of heaven and earth. Unless, one day, Lin Moyu's true spirit imprint disappeared from the origin continent, only then could his soul world leave the soul void of the origin continent. 60 years after his departure, after dozens of uses of the key for guidance, he finally approached his destination. With each use, he developed a subtle connection with the key. On the key, a faint thread of karma appeared, weak but incredibly tenacious and hard to sever. It was by following this thread of karma that the key could guide him. As the key drew closer to the gate, the karma on it grew stronger. Now, the karmic force was more than 100 times what it was when he started. Lin Moyu's sense of the gate became clearer, and a sense of anticipation grew in his heart. What lay behind that dangerous gate? Perhaps this time he would find out. Another 5 years passed. In the 65th year after leaving the origin continent, he finally saw the gate. Passing through a stretch of world mist, Lin Moyu braked sharply and stopped in the void. Within tens of millions of kilometers, the world mist had completely disappeared. Countless dreamlike fighter jets were locked in fierce combat in the void. These jets resembled the fighter planes Lin Moyu had seen in his previous life, but were even more futuristic and powerful. They fired beams containing the power of the Great Tao, with attacks no weaker than those of the Great Tao realm. Countless fighter jets formed a battlefield, and the gate was right in the center. A technological world. I've arrived at the Tianzhou Great Spirit Domain. Lin Moyu was shocked by the scene before him. He hadn't expected to encounter a technological world here. Worlds that developed along technological lines were rare. The discernment beast had mentioned that the Tianyu and Tianzhou Great Spirit Domains both followed technological paths. The Tianyu Great Spirit Domain combined cultivation and technology. The magic treasure that Xiao Zontian had used for many years came from a world in the Tianyu Great Spirit Domain. The Tianzhou Great Spirit Domain, on the other hand, was purely technological. Worlds here had no concept of magic treasures. Looking at the scene, Lin Moyu saw that these fighter jets showed little sign of refinement and had no aura of magic treasures, yet their combat power was extremely strong. He concluded he had entered the region of the Tianzhou Great Spirit Domain. The surrounding worlds were likely all technological worlds. He observed for a while and noticed that the two sides' fighter jets had subtle differences. All the jets were unmanned, fighting automatically in fierce combat, with jets constantly being destroyed and exploding in the void. The explosions were as powerful as a Great Tao realm self-destruction, though the affected area wasn't as vast. After a while, a large number of points of light appeared in the distance. The battlefield's space twisted, and the points of light billions of kilometers away instantly arrived. These points of light were massive battleships, each over 1,000,000 meters long, and there were hundreds of them. The giant battleships joined the battle, opening fire and instantly suppressing the opposition. Lin Moyu noticed that the combat power of these battleships was comparable to that of a Dao Lord. After a wave of suppression, the battleship hatches opened and countless fighter jets swarmed out like bees, joining the fray. One side immediately gained the upper hand, while the other retreated as it fought. Though defeated, it showed no panic. Lin Moyu sensed space folding, but did not detect the space Great Dao. Instead, he felt a massive energy being used to fold space, achieving an effect similar to teleportation. The technological world truly followed its own unique path. The retreating side fought as it withdrew, not moving very quickly. Lin Moyu felt they must have something planned. Sure enough, before long, space twisted again and more battleships arrived, each 1,000,000 meters long, unleashing swarms of fighter jets. The two sides launched a second round of combat, neither willing to yield. Watching this, Lin Moyu found it odd. If the technological world's combat power is so strong, why haven't they expanded outward? Ordinary worlds couldn't withstand their attacks. There were more than 10 million fighter jets on the battlefield, equivalent to 10 million Great Dao Realm cultivators. Could any ordinary world field so many Great Dao Realm beings? Even the Origin continent, at its peak, only managed to create so many Great Dao Realm puppets with its guardian fortress, which itself showed traces of technological world influence. Hundreds of giant battleships were equivalent to hundreds of Dao Lords. Worlds like the Blazing Fire Realm or Black Spider Realm couldn't possibly withstand them. Could it be that they're limited in some way? Lin Moyu quietly watched the battle, deep in thought. He was like a transparent person, as if he didn't exist at all. The two sides were fighting over the gate, but Lin Moyu could see that they were evenly matched. Neither could defeat the other. This battle must have happened many times before, always ending in a stalemate. The gate remained unscathed amidst the barrage, with a 1,000-meter radius around it forming a forbidden zone. No attack could touch it. In that case, even if their battle never ends, as long as I enter within 1,000 meters of the gate, I'll be safe. But with a battle of this scale, Lin Moyu shook his head slightly and did not act. He decided to keep watching. The real show had yet to begin. 3882. 3882. Chapter 3882, Clones. Lin Moyu had a feeling this great battle would not end anytime soon. Moreover, he sensed he was not the fisherman in this scenario, someone else was. This intuition came suddenly, and in his palm appeared an illusory Great Dao, the Destiny Great Dao. He realized the source of this feeling was the Destiny Dao itself. In fact, back when the myriad worlds first fused with the initial batch of elemental liches, the Destiny Lich had already constructed the Destiny Great Dao. At that time, the Destiny Dao was extremely weak, merely an embryonic form, and basically unusable. Later, as Lin Moyu brought in more materials and summoned new liches, the Destiny Dao was strengthened. After that, the Destiny Dao began to function, reflecting the myriad worlds, but that was all. As the myriad worlds grew stronger, the Destiny Dao also evolved and became increasingly powerful. By the time Lin Moyu ascended to Dao Lord, he could already see the fate trajectories of every living being in the myriad worlds through the Destiny Dao, and even alter or manipulate them at will. After refining 2 more world crystals and absorbing desolate beast essence, the myriad worlds grew even stronger, and the Destiny Dao changed accordingly. Now, the Destiny Dao already influenced the world Lin Moyu was in, able to give him some sense of the future. This time was no exception. The Destiny Dao told Lin Moyu that there was someone behind this war. Lin Moyu continued to observe as the battle raged for several days. More than half the fighter jets on both sides were destroyed, and even the giant warships with Dao Lord level power had joined the fray, with several already badly damaged and out of commission. Once a giant warship lost combat ability, it would quickly retreat to a safe zone for repairs and, before long, rejoin the battle. Repairing warships was like Dao Lord's healing, but far more efficient, unlike Dao Lords who might need thousands or tens of thousands of years to recover. After several days, the fisherman Lin Moyu had been waiting for finally appeared. Once again, space twisted, and a huge rift opened, a large force poured out. This time, the space Great Dao was used unlike before, meaning cultivators had arrived. But what emerged were not pure cultivators, but a host of mechas. There were over 10 million mechas, an astonishing number, and their auras were strong at a glance, all had Great Dao realm combat power. These mechas were piloted by people, unlike the unmanned fighter jets. They're from a world in the Tianyu Great Spirit domain. Lin Moyu recalled the discernment beast had mentioned this other great domain. Both the Tianyu and Tianzhou Great Spirit domains follow technological paths, but the Tianyu domain's path is not pure. Their worlds combine cultivation and technology. These mechas were the best proof technology-enhanced mechas piloted by cultivators, used as battle treasures. Behind the mechas came over 100 giant fortresses, also manned by cultivators. The fortresses' combat power also reached Dao Lord level, no weaker than the giant warships. After their arrival, the two original warring sides suddenly turned their weapons outward, instantly becoming allies and launching a fierce assault on the Tianyu Great Spirit Domain's force. The battle escalated to a fever pitch from the start, with massive numbers of fighter jets destroyed and mechas shattered. Mechas are at a disadvantage, Lin Muyu thought. Mechas have pilots, so there are casualties, whereas the fighter jets are unmanned and fearless. Lin Muyu didn't know much about advanced technology, but he could imagine that, with sufficient technological advancement, fighter jets could be mass-produced endlessly. But cultivating a cultivator. At this thought, Lin Muyu's eyes suddenly narrowed. Wait, these aren't normal cultivators. He noticed that the pilots falling from the mechas all had exactly the same appearance, body shape, and even gender completely identical. It was as if they were all clones of the same person. Activating the Eye of the Undead, he saw soul flames in each pilot. They were all living beings, but their soul flames were absolutely identical in strength, appearance, and vibration frequency. Even identical twins would have differences in their souls, but these did not. Lin Muyu suddenly thought of a word, clone. In his previous world, cloning had already been researched. In such an advanced technological world, clones should be commonplace. No wonder they're not afraid to die. These are clones, cloned from a certain cultivator, piloting the mechas into battle. They can use great Daos, and with the mecha's amplification, their combat power is boosted. Each mecha is no weaker than a third-tier Great Dao Realm cultivator. The technological world displayed its might, and Lin Muyu was impressed. The world is diverse, and so is the universe. There are not only glorious cultivation worlds, but equally brilliant technological ones. The worlds of the Tianyu and Tianzhou Great Spirit domains were locked in fierce battle over this mysterious gate. After watching for most of a day, Lin Muyu realized they wouldn't decide a winner anytime soon, and that they were only fighting for control of the gate. No one actually tried to approach it. He suspected they couldn't get close to the gate. Losing interest, Lin Muyu flew toward the gate. He crossed the battlefield as if invisible, threading through the hail of attacks. His appearance immediately drew the attention of both sides. Almost without hesitation, fighter jets and mechas turned their weapons on him, and dazzling attacks rained down on Lin Muyu. In addition to visible attacks, there were invisible ones that exploded violently around him. Space trembled with the explosions, but Lin Muyu remained unmoved. He became a black hole, absorbing all attacks. The domain spell took effect within a certain range around Lin Muyu. It became the domain of the myriad worlds. Attacking Lin Muyu was like attacking the entire myriad worlds. Attacks at the Great Dao Realm level couldn't shake Lin Muyu at all. Both sides reacted quickly. Seeing that mecha and fighter attacks were useless, the fortresses and giant warships also targeted Lin Muyu. Waves of terrifying attacks struck him, but Lin Muyu still didn't dodge, letting them hit him as he advanced toward the gate at incredible speed. Unable to stop him, both sides grew anxious. Large numbers of mechas and fighter jets tried to physically block Lin Muyu. He laughed softly, summoning 10 undead servants. The servants swung their blades, imbued with the gold Great Dao, cutting through everything and clearing a path. A giant warship tried to tear open space to escape, but the undead servant was faster, using the space Great Dao to smooth out the space. The teleportation failed, and the warship erupted in a massive explosion. Lin Muyu was surprised. A failed teleport causes space energy backlash, resulting in self-destruction. So even technology must follow the rules. 3883, 3883. Chapter 3883, The Gate. In the worlds of the Tianzhou Great Spirit Domain, giant battleships used technological means to bypass the space Great Dao and achieve something like teleportation. But in the end, they still had to deal with space itself. All the mysteries of space are governed by the space Great Dao. When the battleships tried to tear open space, Lin Muyu's undead servants manipulated the space Great Dao to forcibly freeze space. At that moment, the battleship, having already expended a tremendous amount of energy to tear space, had nowhere for that energy to go. It exploded inside the battleship, causing it to self-destruct. The giant battleship was blown to pieces in the explosion, countless fragments scattering through the void. With a thought, Lin Moyu had his undead servants use the space great Dao to collect some of the fragments. He gently squeezed, and the fragments were crushed to powder, falling from his fingers. These aren't high-grade materials. Their hardness barely reaches the great Dao realm. Using low-level materials to build battleships with Dao Lord-level attack power, that's the essence of technology. Sensing the materials, Lin Moyu found their grade was not high. He ignited the undying flame in his palm, attempting to summon an elemental lich. But the summoning failed. These materials contained no great Dao attributes and weren't suitable for cultivators, so they couldn't be used for summoning. As someone with some knowledge of technology, Lin Moyu could make a few guesses. These materials might have been synthesized using some technological process and didn't involve any natural treasures. Attacks rained down again. Giant battleships from the Tianyu Great Spirit Domain and fortresses from the Tianzhou Great Spirit Domain launched a saturation strike at Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu laughed in surprise. His appearance had actually made them form an alliance. The undead servants wielded the space great Dao to form spatial defenses, blocking most of the attacks. The few that slipped through, Lin Moyu simply endured. They couldn't do him any real harm. Pushing through the barrage, Lin Moyu drew ever closer to the gate. The battleships and fortresses were clearly getting anxious, trying everything to stop him, but their attacks had no effect. The only option was to approach themselves, but after witnessing the battleship's self-destruction, they didn't dare use spatial jumps. As a result, no matter how anxious they were, they could only watch as Lin Moyu neared the gate. When he entered within 1,000 kilometers of the gate, all attacks suddenly vanished. The gate radiated an indescribable aura. Any attack within 1,000 kilometers would mysteriously disappear. This 1,000-kilometer radius was the gate's absolute domain. No external force could interfere within it. Staying alert, Lin Moyu slowly approached the gate. He knew from gathered information that many had reached the gate before. As long as the gate wasn't opened, it should be safe. As he got closer, the gate loomed ever larger. It was over 1,000,000 meters tall and 100,000 meters wide, with two doors tightly closed together, not a crack between them. The entire gate was covered in intricate designs, seemingly some kind of runes, but Lin Moyu couldn't decipher their meaning. When he was less than 100 kilometers away, a strange aura washed over him. Lin Moyu's soul trembled, struck by a violent shock. It was hard to imagine that the aura of time itself could become a form of attack. Countless scenes from his past flashed before his eyes, all things he had experienced, replaying over and over. His soul seemed to be sinking into the river of time, unable to break free. Wake up! With a low shout in his heart, Lin Moyu broke free from the river of time and regained his clarity. He understood that the time aura was not an attack, but a natural effect emitted by the gate itself. The gate was so ancient that its very aura could cause people to lose themselves. If one's Dao heart was not strong, even a Dao Lord could be trapped and unable to escape. When Lin Moyu was 10 kilometers from the gate, he saw a small notch on the right door, shaped exactly like the key he held. On the left door, in a symmetrical spot, there was also a place for a key, but here, a key was already set, perfectly integrated with the ornate designs, making it hard to spot even on close inspection. Clearly, the Lord of Hell had studied the gate in detail to create this key. There was a karmic link between the key and the gate, allowing him to find it. Back then, he must have planned to return for the gate after escaping with his life. But something unexpected happened. Something that came out from behind the gate scared him off. Even after he recovered, he never dared return, letting the gate wander untended. The Lord of Hell lacked a firm Dao heart and courage. His achievements were already due to great fortune, but he would go no further. Lin Moyu walked to the spot for the key, removed it, and inserted his own. The previously missing piece was filled, and the design became whole. Faint light flowed across the gate, followed by a deep rumble, as if some mechanism had been activated. But the gate did not open. Instead, Lin Moyu received a stream of information explaining how to open it. Currently, the gate lacked the energy needed to open. Back then, the Lord of Hell placed it in the underworld for countless years to accumulate enough energy to open it once. Now, Lin Moyu didn't have that much time. He needed to find a way to provide enough energy himself. He studied the information, surprised to learn that opening the gate was divided into 4 stages: primary, intermediate, advanced, and full opening. The minimum energy needed for the primary stage was 30%. As long as the gate was supplied with 30% energy, it could be opened a crack, allowing access to a limited area and fewer rewards. The intermediate stage required 60% energy, the advanced stage 90%. Full opening required 100% energy. Currently, the gate only had 20% energy, 1/10 short of the minimum. This 20% had been accumulated over countless years by passively absorbing energy from its 1,000-kilometer range. For countless years, the worlds of the Tianyu and Tianzhou Great Spirit domains had fought here, with massive attacks falling within the gate's absorption range, all converted into energy it needed. The gate could absorb all kinds of energy, nothing was refused. But the amount needed was so vast that, relying on passive absorption alone, it would take billions of years to fill. Each stage of opening had its own significance. The primary stage opened just a crack, with limited access and rewards. The intermediate stage opened a larger area, with more opportunities and dangers. The information included records of past openings over billions of years. The gate had been opened several times, on average every few million years. Most people only managed the primary stage, intermediate openings were rare, and advanced opening only happened once. Full opening had never occurred. 3884, 3884. Chapter 3884. Don't blame me for a massacre. Lin Moyu studied the information transmitted from the gate, searching for clues in the records of its previous openings. It was quite interesting. Even though he didn't know who each opener was, he could deduce some of their mindsets from the patterns. The last person to open the gate was undoubtedly the former Lord of Hell, now known as the Other Shore World Lord. That opening had taken place several million years ago. The Lord of Hell had only managed to open the gate at the primary stage, meaning he'd only opened a crack. After all those years of accumulation, he'd only managed to reach 30% energy, truly disappointing. Looking at the records, it seemed others hadn't done much better. Anyone able to obtain and open the gate was undoubtedly a top-tier powerhouse. In fact, among them, the Lord of Hell was already one of the weaker ones. As for the person who managed to open the gate at the advanced stage, Lin Moyu suspected it was the human emperor. As far as he knew, only the human emperor would have that capability, and the timing about 70 million years ago lined up. But even the human emperor could only open the gate at the advanced stage. Just how difficult would it be to open it fully? Lin Moyu couldn't help but doubt whether he could ever fully open the gate. The human emperor must have wanted to open it fully, but that last 10% of energy was too difficult, so he gave up. The interval between that opening and the one before was 12 million years, much longer than previous gaps. Does that mean the human emperor spent millions of years trying every method, but still couldn't supply the final 10% of energy? What exactly is needed for that last 10%? The information only said, energy, very vaguely, without specifics. Lin Moyu would have to figure it out himself. Now that he had a faint connection to the gate, it temporarily belonged to him. He could even store it in his soul world and take it away. After the next opening, the gate would leave, its whereabouts unknown. Lin Moyu had to admit the Lord of Hell was lucky. In studying the gate, he'd obtained its key, giving him a second chance to find it. The key was embedded in the gate and couldn't be obtained by ordinary means. Lin Moyu had no idea how the Lord of Hell had managed it, something even the human emperor hadn't accomplished. Putting those thoughts aside, Lin Moyu's current task was to find a way to supply the gate with energy. But first, he needed to leave. He looked out 1,000 kilometers away and saw a dense mass of mechas, fighter jets, and warships far more than before, with new arrivals constantly appearing. Several unusually shaped warships appeared, round in design and several million meters in diameter, their size variable. Each radiated a powerful aura, intimidating to behold. Origin Dao Lord-level warships? It can't be that simple. Lin Moyu sensed a real threat from these new warships. If they were only at Origin Dao Lord level, they wouldn't threaten him. On the Tianyu Great Spirit Domain side, 2 new fortresses appeared. These were smaller than the previous ones, but in a half-real, half-illusory state, with 10 great Daos circling each like shields. These fortresses also gave Lin Moyu a sense of danger. They formed an encirclement 1,000 kilometers from the gate, clearly intending not to let Lin Moyu leave. Space was sealed off, making it difficult to use the space Great Dao to teleport away. It had been a long time since Lin Moyu had been surrounded like this. He found it rather interesting. He knew they couldn't approach. If they did, they'd be affected by the gate. Even he had nearly been lost in the river of time. How could they fare better? The technological world was powerful, but it had its weaknesses. Even if there were cultivators in the Tianyu Great Spirit Domain, their Dao hearts couldn't be that strong. Lin Moyu's voice rang out. Do you intend to stop me? His tone was firm, calm in the face of the encirclement. After a moment, a mechanical voice responded, "Cultivator, abandon the gate, and we will allow you to leave." Lin Moyu chuckled, "You have 1 minute to withdraw. Otherwise, don't blame me for a massacre." Even with tens of millions of troops outside, Lin Moyu ignored them. No matter how many ants there are, they're still ants. The other side fell silent, giving no reply. Lin Moyu didn't care whether their sense of time matched his, he would use his own standard. His warning clearly had no effect. A minute quickly passed. Snap! Without another word, Lin Moyu snapped his fingers. Instantly, countless undead servants charged out, crossing 1,000 kilometers in a flash and breaking into the encirclement. He didn't deploy too many, just 100,000 undead servants. Compared to his trillion-strong undead army, this was a drop in the ocean. But for the Tianyu and Tianzhou armies, it was a catastrophe. Various great dows blossomed in the void, countless fighter jets and mechas were instantly reduced to dust. The undead servants, each with origin Dao Lord level strength, swung their warblades, each strike covering a vast area. Nothing survived in their path. From the outset, the battle was one-sided, the enemy had no ability to resist. Lin Moyu sighed, technology is powerful, and maybe quantity can win, but against a true powerhouse, it's still not enough. Based on the combat power shown, if they faced a top-tier world lord like Mu Sha, they'd still be crushed. No matter how many there are, a single great Dao desolate beast king could sweep them all away. When strength reaches a certain point, numbers become meaningless. Lin Moyu had learned this himself when he faced a great Dao desolate beast king. All he could do was run. Even sending in tens of billions of undead only bought a little time. Now, just 100,000 undead servants had already crushed tens of millions of troops to dust. The battle lasted only a few minutes before the enemy's losses exceeded their limits. On command, their fighter jets and mechas retreated almost simultaneously, and even the giant warships and fortresses didn't advance. They seemed to realize they weren't a match for the undead servants. The round warships and the two half-real, half-illusory fortresses moved to the front, facing the undead directly. The round warships hummed, unleashing immense power that distorted the void. Even with space sealed, the pressure caused it to twist. Layers of halos radiated out, and nearby undead servants were uncontrollably drawn in. As they neared the round warships, their bodies were compressed, eventually flattened into sheets and shattered. Lin Moyu was startled. What kind of technology is this? The attack was silent, crushing undead servants flat. He'd never seen anything like it. The undead revived instantly and attacked the round warships, but their attacks did no damage. The ships hummed and shone, blocking every strike. The light flashed, and the undead were flattened again. 3885. 3885. Chapter 3885, Deceived. The undead servants and their attacks were crushed flat in the light, seemingly without any resistance. This attack made Lin Moyu think of an extremely rare Great Dao, the Gravity Great Dao. This Dao is very uncommon, and very few have comprehended it. In fact, the current myriad worlds doesn't even contain this Dao. Lin Moyu couldn't help but feel a hunter's excitement. If I could acquire the Gravity Great Dao here, it would be an unexpected bonus. Though he thought this, he wasn't too confident. He couldn't be sure it was the Gravity Great Dao. Maybe the enemy was using some special technological method to achieve a gravity-like effect, in which case his hopes would be dashed. The key was that he didn't sense any Great Dao power, but in any case, he had to test it to know for sure. The other two fortresses weren't to be outdone. They also attacked the undead servants. Being half-real, half-illusory themselves, their attacks were also semi-real, semi-illusory. Their attacks spread out hemispherically, instantly covering a vast area, making the whole region appear dreamlike. The bodies of the undead servants became half-real, half-illusory, then shattered with a bang, pulverized to dust. Some fragments remained in the real world, while others vanished without a trace. A large number of undead servants were smashed to pieces by these attacks, but their resurrection ability still worked. They kept reviving and attacking the fortresses. Yet, as the attacks approached the fortresses, they became illusory and collapsed midway. These attacks, half-real and half-illusory, almost break the boundary between the real and the virtual. This discovery surprised Lin Moyu. Previously, the discernment beast could directly break through the real-virtual boundary, affecting the real world from the soul void. He hadn't expected these two fortresses to do the reverse, affect the soul void from the real world. Their attacks split the undead servants, sending part directly into the soul void, splitting them between real and virtual, causing them to collapse. An undead servant can exist in the real world or in the soul void, but not split between both. The two worlds have different rules, and being split between them causes the servant to break down. This attack was truly terrifying, even the protagonist could die if careless. But Lin Moyu also noticed its flaw: the attack range was too short. At most, it only covered a few hundred kilometers, not even 1,000. In battles at this level, if someone wanted to dodge, it would be easy. Not only the fortresses, but the round warships had the same problem: their attack range was short, and their light only covered less than 1,000 kilometers. When Lin Moyu realized this, so did the undead servants. With their minds linked, they quickly adjusted tactics and increased their distance. Their warblades transformed into longswords, and countless giant swords appeared in the void. The undead servants all wielded the sword Great Dao, overlaid with the gold Great Dao, forming golden swords. The sword Great Dao's indestructibility, combined with the sharpness of the gold Great Dao, made these swords extremely powerful. The undead servants attacked in unison, unleashing a storm of swords. The round warships were immediately suppressed, their light shrinking rapidly under the barrage of golden swords. The light tried to crush the golden swords, but it was ineffective. The swords were too strong and numerous, creating a reverse suppression. The half-real, half-illusory fortresses faced a similar issue. Their attacks couldn't send the golden swords into the soul void, so they couldn't break them apart. The golden swords withstood the attacks and struck the warships and fortresses. Brilliant gold light flashed as the warships and fortresses were pushed back, but they remained undamaged. Their defenses are strong, Lin Moyu thought with surprise. The golden swords combined two Daos, and their power was astonishing. Even an origin Dao Lord would struggle to withstand so many hits. Despite the overwhelming attacks, the enemy was unharmed, indicating their materials were extremely advanced. The undead servants didn't let up, golden swords raining down relentlessly. Under attack, the previously frozen space loosened, and the space Great Dao became usable again. The undead servants tore open space, surrounding the enemy from all sides and attacking from every direction. The warships and fortresses were besieged, constantly under attack with nowhere to run. The void rang with the sound of metal, a continuous roar. The enemy's attacks had stopped, their light had vanished, and they could only endure the beating. Yet no matter how the golden swords struck, they remained unmoved. The scene grew strange. The warships and fortresses had no power to fight back, but the undead servants couldn't harm them either. Lin Moyu willed another 100,000 undead servants to join in, ruthlessly attacking the remaining mechas, fighter jets, and weaker warships and fortresses. Space was constantly torn open as the undead servants used the space Great Dao to appear unpredictably and unleash powerful attacks. The technological armies were quickly routed, suffering heavy casualties. Some warships tried to use spatial jumps to escape, but the undead servants sealed their space first. The backlash from the space energy caused the warships to explode instantly. While warships might match Dao Lords in combat power, their adaptability was far inferior. Especially when facing opponents like the undead servants, who could change tactics and Daos at will, they had no chance. "Stop, human cultivator, let's talk." Finally, the mechanical voice spoke again. Lin Moyu chuckled. "Talk about what?" The mechanical voice said. "First, have your people stop." Lin Moyu shook his head. "You started the fight, and now you want to stop it? If I just stop, wouldn't that make me look bad?" The mechanical voice replied. "I apologize for earlier. I'm sorry, please have your people stop." "Thank you." Though still calm, the tone was much more polite. Lin Moyu gave him face and, with a thought, had the undead servants stop. But space remained sealed, preventing their escape. Lin Moyu said, "All right, we can talk. What do you want to discuss?" Suddenly, the spherical warships and half-real fortresses erupted in light, and space was instantly thrown into chaos, creating a massive rift. Even the undead servants couldn't mend the rift with the space Great Dao. The warships and fortresses rushed into the rift and disappeared. They had escaped. Lin Moyu's face twitched, his expression complex. He'd actually been tricked. His gaze grew cold. In all these years, he'd faced many opponents, but so few had ever deceived him, and even fewer had succeeded. He realized he'd been fooled for two reasons. First, the calm mechanical voice had thrown off his judgment. Second, he thought he had the upper hand, not realizing the enemy didn't care about these lesser technological creations. Technological products and clones could be mass-produced. Clearly, the enemy didn't care about the losses. What they really valued were the spherical warships and half-real fortresses. The worlds of the Tianyu and Tianzhou Great Spirit domains might seem to be fighting to the death, but in reality, they were working together behind the scenes. Lin Moyu's eyes glinted with killing intent. Fine, since that's how you want to play, let's have some fun. 3886. 3886. Chapter 3886, Supplying Energy. The undead servants took action, wiping out all the mechas, fighter jets, warships, and fortresses that couldn't escape, leaving not a single one behind. Lin Moyu glanced at his karmic threads, understanding that he had now formed karma with these technological worlds. To resolve this karma would likely require a true battle, one where either he or they would fall. Sometimes, hatred is just that simple. Lin Moyu never intended to provoke them, all he wanted was the gate. Even when they attacked him, he only counterattacked at the most basic level. But now, things had changed. Still, this wasn't urgent. The most important thing now was the gate. The gate needed vast energy, and he had to find a way to supply it. With a wave, he stored the gate in his soul world and began infusing it with soul power. Lin Moyu's soul power was endless as long as he didn't act recklessly, he didn't need to worry about running dry. As soul power poured in, the gate glowed faintly, and 3 halos appeared at its base. 2 of the halos shone brightly and were solid, meaning the gate already had 2/10 of the required energy. The 3rd halo had just appeared and was still very faint. Only when this 3rd halo also shone and solidified would the gate have 3/10 of its energy. Despite the continuous infusion of soul power, the 3rd halo barely changed. Lin Moyu wasn't surprised. The Lord of Hell had used great Tao power, accumulating over countless years, to get the gate to 3/10 energy. His own soul power was barely a drop in the ocean. He summoned 100 undead servants and instructed them to channel their power into the gate. The 3rd halo glowed a bit brighter than before, but only slightly. The power of 100 undead servants should have far surpassed the Lord of Hell's, but progress was still slow. No matter if 100 undead servants weren't enough, then 1,000, 10,000, even 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 would do. Lin Moyu's goal was to supply the gate with energy as quickly as possible and open it. Everything else was secondary. In the soul world, more and more undead servants appeared, soon surpassing 100 million. Over 100 million undead servants poured Tao Lord level power into the gate like a tsunami. The 3rd halo finally began to brighten, but at this rate, it would still take a long time to fully solidify. Lin Moyu sensed something was wrong. Adding more undead servants did speed things up, but not in proportion. From 100 to 100 million was a million-fold increase, but the speed of energy infusion was at most 10 times faster. At this rate, it would take thousands or even tens of thousands of years to solidify the 3rd halo. He realized this was already much faster than the Lord of Hell, but still not fast enough for his needs. He kept increasing the number, going straight to 10 billion undead servants. The speed increased a bit more now, about 20 times the original speed, but it would still take thousands of years. Cutting the time from 10,000 to 5,000 years made little difference to Lin Moyu. He realized that simply increasing the number would yield diminishing returns. Even if he used all his trillion undead servants, the effect might not double again. Could it be that quantity isn't the key? Then what is? He pondered for a while, then remembered that the gate had been drifting in the world mist for ages, accumulating 2 halos in the process. In terms of accumulation speed, it seemed even faster than his 10 billion undead servants. And what did the world mist have? Great Tao power, all kinds of great Tao power. A flash of insight struck him. He issued a new command. The undead servants should use different great Tao powers. Immediately, a dazzling display of all kinds of great Tao power lit up the soul world. The 3rd halo brightened significantly, and the speed of energy infusion increased tenfold, compressing the time to under 1,000 years. Lin Moyu smiled. So that's how it is. He realized the gate didn't just need vast energy, though that was the foundation, it also needed variety. It required many different types of power. The more diverse the energies, the better the effect. The undead servants channeled nearly every great Tao power from the myriad worlds into the gate, and the speed of energy replenishment increased by several hundred times. Inspired, Lin Moyu called out, "Little tree." Little tree appeared with a ball of light. "Master, what do you need?" Lin Moyu said, "Use your power to supply energy to this gate." Okay. Without hesitation, Little Tree extended a branch and touched the gate. With a hum, the 3rd halo solidified at a speed more than 10 times faster than before. At this rate, it would take less than 100 years to fully solidify the third halo enough to open the gate at the primary stage. But Lin Moyu wasn't satisfied with just that. Many people in the origin continent needed both the Shatian stone and the undying gem. Of the two, the Shatian stone was more important. The undying gem could be replaced by other treasures but not the Shatian stone. According to the Lord of Hell, he'd only obtained one Shatian stone and one undying gem, while the human emperor had gotten more, meaning the stage at which the gate was opened affected the rewards. So Lin Moyu's best outcome would be to open the gate fully. If that wasn't possible, then at least open it at the advanced stage like the human emperor. Only then could he be sure of getting enough Shatian stones. Beyond the treasures, he also wanted to explore the world beyond the gate. Once he learned there were different opening stages, he suspected that only a full opening would reveal the true nature of the world behind the gate. So, reaching the primary stage in under 100 years was only barely acceptable, not perfect. With a thought, Lin Moyu drew upon the power of Bone Hell. The undead servants could use nearly every great Tao in the myriad worlds, but there were a few they couldn't. Bone Hell was one of them. Bone Hell wasn't tied to any great Tao, it was an independent region, the cycle of reincarnation for the myriad worlds, filled with energy completely opposite to the myriad worlds. The myriad worlds represented life, with death within life. Bone Hell represented death, with vitality within death. The power of Bone Hell was summoned, turning into flames that poured into the gate. The third halo's solidification speed increased again. Now it would take less than 50 years to finish. Lin Moyu smiled even wider, feeling great. First, solidify the third halo and qualify to open the gate, then I'll think about the rest. 3887, 3887. Chapter 3887, Instruments of the Technological World. You can't become fat with one bite. Lin Moyu first ensured the minimum requirements were met before aiming for higher goals. Lin Moyu was clear-headed. Set your sights high, but always prepare for the worst. The battle in the void had completely ended. Lin Moyu took out the remaining power of karma and casually pulled out a thread. This was the power from the Lord of Cause and Effect, extremely pure, which he used to activate his own karma. A faint light, visible only to him, stretched out toward the distant world mist. This was the karma he'd formed with the two technological worlds earlier. He couldn't even tell which one specifically, but that didn't matter. He picked one at random. Lin Moyu planned to pay them a visit and settle the score from earlier. He released Huo-san to use as a mount, trailing a line of fire as he advanced in the direction indicated by karma. The world mist parted in the firelight. Since the other side could find the gate, Lin Moyu guessed the two worlds couldn't be far apart. But after flying for almost a month, Lin Moyu realized his judgment was wrong. The world was extremely far away. At his current speed, he could cross the entire origin continent in no time, but after a month, who knew how far he'd traveled? This raised another question. With such a vast distance, how had the other side discovered the gate? Clearly, the technological world had methods he didn't know about. After a month, Lin Moyu began to sense something was wrong. He felt like he was being watched. Actually, he'd had this feeling before, but it was faint and he hadn't paid much attention. Now, the feeling of being watched grew stronger and clearer. Is it a detection method from the technological world? Lin Moyu wondered. In his previous world, technology wasn't very advanced. The most powerful weapon was the nuclear bomb. But even nuclear bombs weren't even at the super god realm level. Still, that technology could already monitor the entire world, even launching probes into distant space. Detection was relatively easy, which explained how the other side could discover and contest the gate from so far away. The real world wasn't as clearly divided as the soul void, which had great spirit domains and vacuum zones. In the real world, locations were much harder to determine. The feeling of being watched peaked, and Lin Moyu finally discovered who was monitoring him. It was something smaller than a speck of dust. Even a million of them together would only be the size of a grain of dust. It was so tiny as to be invisible to the naked eye. Lin Moyu only noticed it with his soul eye. If it were another Tao Lord, even using the soul eye, they might not have seen it. Such a minuscule, non-luminous thing, almost non-existent, was being used for surveillance. You had to admit, the technological world surpassed cultivators in some areas. Imagine if these things appeared in a cultivation world. No one would ever know they were being watched. Lin Moyu developed an interest in technological products. He mobilized the power of the myriad worlds and tapped his finger lightly. A small patch of space collapsed, instantly destroying the surveillance devices within. He tried a few other methods and confirmed that, though numerous, these devices weren't strong and were easy to destroy. The density of surveillance devices increased, and Lin Moyu saw they were spreading outward at an astonishing speed. If not for the obstruction of the world mist, they'd be even faster, almost as fast as he was. After flying a few more days, a giant instrument appeared in his view. Lin Moyu instinctively called it an instrument, a word he hadn't used in ages because what he saw was so sci-fi. In science fiction movies from his previous life, you might see something similar. This instrument was over 100,000 meters in diameter. The front looked like a massive injector, and behind it was a chain enormous, filled with working mechanisms and flashing indicator lights. The injector continuously sprayed out tiny surveillance dots in all directions. Upon seeing the instrument, Lin Moyu was sure he'd arrived in a world belonging to the Tianzhou Great Spirit domain. There were no cultivators or clones inside, only robots at work. As Lin Moyu approached, the instrument hummed like a giant beast awakening after countless years. The nearly 100,000-meter-long chain lit up, hatches opened, and various manipulator arms extended. Then, Lin Moyu frowned. The space around him became chaotic, rapidly compressing. Before Lin Moyu could give an order, Huo-san reacted instantly. Its natal fire erupted, detonating the chaotic space and shattering it with brute force, making it impossible for the instrument to maintain compression. After this attack, the instrument released a swarm of small fighter jets, each less than half a meter in diameter but radiating considerable power. They charged at Lin Moyu without hesitation. "Burn it," Lin Moyu ordered casually. Huo-san's flames grew fiercer, turning into a sea of fire. The jets were incinerated before they could get close. As a revived being, Huo-san was at its peak, truly an origin Tao Lord. The void twisted, and 5 giant warships suddenly appeared. Countless fighter jets poured out, and the warships attacked Huo-san. The warships' combat power was comparable to a Tao Lord, especially in terms of attack. Their concentrated fire suppressed the sea of fire, and the jets broke through, charging at Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu snapped his fingers. 100,000 undead servants rushed out, their terrifying attacks forming a net that instantly cleared the jets. The undead servants teleported to the warships, sealing the space and tearing them apart. In just a few minutes, the 5 warships were smashed to pieces. After the earlier battle by the gate, Lin Moyu already knew that, aside from those spherical warships, these regular warships were basically trash to him. The undead servants made quick work of them. Next, the undead servants attacked the instrument. Its weapons counterattacked furiously, but had no effect. The undead servants stormed inside, and suddenly the instrument emitted a loud alarm and exploded. The terrifying blast collapsed space, sending the undead servants flying. They were slightly injured but quickly recovered. It actually self-destructed. Lin Moyu was surprised. As soon as this thing was invaded, it self-destructed, clearly a built-in failsafe. He knew nothing about the technological world, and the human emperor wasn't around. A thought struck him, and Lin Moyu took out a corpse, a clone he'd kept for karmic purposes. Now he thought it might be useful. The undying flame flared up as he began a summoning. 3888. 3888. Chapter 3888. Tech Alliance, Science Tao Alliance. At first, Lin Moyu had overlooked this point. Although clones aren't traditional living beings, they are still living creatures with souls. As long as it's a living being, it can be summoned, so it was worth a try. The undying flame burned fiercely as the clone's soul was reconstituted. It can be revived. I wonder if the revived clone will retain its previous memories, and whose orders it will follow. Lin Moyu was curious, would a clone revived in this way obey him, or someone else? The clone wasn't very strong, only at the Tao Sovereign Realm, not even having reached the Great Tao Realm. Yet the mecha it piloted could possess Great Tao Realm level combat power, far surpassing ordinary cultivators at that level. This was the result of combining cultivation and technology. The clone revived in the undying flame, kneeling respectfully before Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu said, "Introduce yourself." The clone replied truthfully, "I am Lord Pang Jing's clone, serial number." Just one sentence, simple and direct. But it revealed some information. Pang Jing was likely a cultivator in that world with an enormous number of clones. The serial number was already in the tens of millions, meaning there were at least tens of millions of clones, maybe more. And the clone still addressed Pang Jing as Lord, showing that clones remained influenced by the original. Lin Moyu asked, "Which world are you from? What's Pang Jing's cultivation? How many clones like you are there? The clone answered, I am from the Tianqing world. Lord Pang Jing's cultivation is third-class Soul Great Tao Realm. There are 100 million clones of Lord Pang Jing. A third-class Soul Great Tao Realm clone is equivalent to the third tier of the Tao Sovereign Realm, a whole major realm lower than the Great Tao Realm. The gap seems large, but the sheer number is terrifying. If the original body were even stronger and had even more clones, it would be truly frightening. Lin Moyu asked, how powerful is Pang Jing in your world? The clone shook its head. I don't know. Lin Moyu asked a few more questions but got no clear answers. The clone's knowledge was limited, obviously restricted during cloning, so it didn't know much. Still, Lin Moyu learned that clones like this only qualified to pilot mechas. Those who entered the fortresses were much stronger. Especially the final, half-real, half-illusory fortress, which the clone called the Phantom Star Fortress, the most powerful war machine in Tianqing world. Lin Moyu asked, there are many invisible surveillance devices in the world mist. Do you know what those are? The clone said, those are photon detectors. We scatter many photon detectors in all directions to explore other worlds. Once a world is discovered, a national force is dispatched to conquer it. So photon detectors, just as Lin Moyu suspected, were used to probe other worlds. The self-destructing instrument was an automated photon detector factory. These technological worlds constantly released photon detectors, yet cultivation worlds remained untouched, which was odd. Photon detectors should have been released for countless years and should have reached even the most distant places. The only explanation is that photon detectors can't travel far in the world mist, or if they go too far, they lose contact and become missing. Lin Moyu asked, what's the name of the world you fought against earlier? The clone replied, that is Lycong world. Lin Moyu said, tell me everything you know about Lycong world. The clone described some information about Lycong world. Although both Tianqing world and Lycong world are technological worlds, they are two different systems and look down on each other. They constantly clash, fighting countless wars, but their strength is similar, so neither can truly win. In the end, their wars became more like training exercises or weapons tests. Lycong world's spherical warships are called starships, representing their highest technological achievement. Behind Lycong world is a tech alliance, composed entirely of pure technological worlds. There are thousands of such worlds. Lycong world is only upper mid-tier within the tech alliance. Tianqing world, where the clone is from, belongs to the Science Tao Alliance, which combines scientific technology with the Great Tao. There are also thousands of such worlds, and Tianqing world is also upper mid-tier in its alliance. From this explanation, Lin Moyu gained a general understanding of these technological worlds and formed a rough outline in his mind. In the end, technological worlds aren't so mysterious. Everything is governed by the rules of heaven and earth, and Lin Moyu didn't think their path would necessarily succeed. Now, the people of Lycong world already knew he was coming and had probably prepared a massive army, waiting for him. Just as he was about to set off, the clone's expression twisted, and with a light pop in its head, it instantly went still. The people of Tianqing world had discovered its resurrection and destroyed it remotely. Even as a revived being, Lin Moyu could decide its life and death, but so could its original body. This was similar to the insect race. Revived insects could still be killed by the queen. First, I'll deal with Lycong world, then go after Tianqing world. Lin Moyu continued to follow the thread of karma. He was already close to Lycong world. He had to settle the score for being deceived, or his Tao heart would never be at peace. A day later, his vision cleared. Tens of millions of kilometers away, the world mist was completely gone, and a massive army was waiting for him, eyes fixed like tigers. Lin Moyu stopped at a distance, looking on from afar. The sky was packed with fighter jets, at least 10 billion. There were over 10,000 powerful giant warships, each with Tao Lord level combat power, equivalent to 10,000 Tao Lords. Lin Moyu had to admit that technological worlds were indeed powerful. While they lacked top-tier powerhouses, their Tao Lord and Great Tao Realm level forces far surpassed ordinary worlds. And Lycong world was only upper mid-tier in the Tech Alliance. Just how strong were the truly top-tier technological worlds? At the rear of the formation were 10 starships. Their combat power surpassed that of the giant warships, even slightly stronger than Origin Tao Lords, with extremely strong defenses. 10,000 undead servants couldn't harm them. Cultivator, you have already taken the gate. Why have you come here? A mechanical voice echoed in the void. Lin Moyu sneered, I didn't intend to trouble you, but you deceived me, so now we are bound by karma. I hate karma, I sever it whenever I can. And I'm quite interested in your technological world, so I came to take a look. The mechanical voice paused for several seconds, then said, "You are very strong. We do not wish to be your enemy. What happened before was our fault, we apologize. If you have any requests, please state them and we will do our best to meet them." 3889, 3889. Chapter 3889, Once is enough to be deceived. They didn't want to fight him, and even asked him to name his terms. There's no such thing as a free lunch clearly, they realized that fighting him would be extremely costly, and they might not even win. To avoid losses, they were reluctantly yielding. If it weren't for the mechanical voice, if the other side had emotions, they'd probably be gnashing their teeth right now. Since they asked him to name his terms, Lin Moyu wasn't going to be polite. "I'm interested in your technology. Give me a set of your tech data, and a starship, and we'll call it even," Lin Moyu stated his demands. Is that excessive? Not really. He wasn't asking for detailed blueprints, just an introduction would do. After all, as a cultivator, he wouldn't understand most of it anyway. Of course, he could integrate the data into the myriad worlds. Maybe in the myriad worlds, some tech Dao Lord races would emerge, making it more diverse, which wouldn't be a bad thing. Only 2 seconds after Lin Moyu made his request, the other side replied, "We refuse. Starships are our highest technology. There's no way we can give you one. Please ask for something else." The refusal was so blunt that Lin Moyu could even sense a trace of anger in the mechanical voice. Lin Moyu replied, "In that case, there's nothing left to discuss. I hope you won't regret your choice." Without further words, he waved his hand, and 10 billion undead servants appeared in the void. "You have 10 billion, so do I. That's fair." The first thing the undead servants did was seal off space. No one was escaping. The great Dao shone, the sword Dao appeared, forming countless sharp swords wrapped in the gold Dao, slashing forward with unstoppable sharpness. The undead servants had used this move before, and it was extremely effective, so they used it again. They understood that it's not about novelty, but practicality. A rain of swords fell like a waterfall. In an instant, Lycon World's fleet suffered massive casualties. Countless fighter jets exploded in the void, and even giant warships couldn't withstand the golden swords. The 10 starships charged forward in a row, compressing space to block the golden swords. But there were simply too many swords. They held out for less than 10 seconds before the starships, space was shattered, and all the light was compressed back. The golden swords crashed densely against the starships, forcing them to retreat step by step. Perhaps the leaders of Lycon World never imagined Lin Moyu could command so many undead servants. If they had known, maybe they wouldn't have refused so bluntly. "Stop, please." The mechanical voice sounded again, now with a sense of urgency. Lin Moyu shook his head lightly. "Some things, once is already too many. Stop." Out of the question, Lin Moyu had already given them their last chance. If they'd agreed to his terms, this conflict could have been avoided. But now, it was impossible. The undead servants, following Lin Moyu's will, swept across the battlefield, leaving no survivors. This was a one-sided massacre. Lycon World's forces fell faster and faster, despair filling the battlefield. Lin Moyu thought, if the other side were smarter, they'd have fled by now, or called for reinforcements. Didn't they have a tech alliance? Maybe that would help. A few hours later, Lycon World's army was wiped out, leaving only 10 starships. They tried multiple times to tear open space, but Lin Moyu was prepared this time. Over 1 million undead servants simultaneously used the space Dao to seal the entire area, giving them no chance to escape. The starships tried again and again to flee, but always failed and suffered energy backlash. The starships were so sturdy they didn't shatter, in fact, they weren't even scratched. What are these things made of, to be so tough? Lin Moyu wondered. The hardness of the starships was almost on par with precious materials. Billions of undead servants attacked the 10 starships. If they'd been world lords, they'd have been pulverized long ago. These things were so tough, you didn't even need weapons, just ramming into them would work. One hit, one kill. Some undead servants landed on the starships and hacked away with their warblades, but the sound was like hammering iron, not leaving a single mark. The undead servants kept switching Daos, but still couldn't do anything to the starships. The more Lin Moyu watched, the more wrong it felt. By levels of power, nothing should be this absurd. The Crimson Blood Dao surged, bringing polluting power to surround the starships. But the effect wasn't great. The starships were barely affected. Lin Moyu realized that crimson blood could pollute all sorts of powers, but the starships weren't made of power, but of technology. So its effect was greatly diminished. He pointed, and bone hell flew out, with countless hell wraiths roaring in the river of fire. The undead servants pinned the starships down, preventing any movement. Bone hell, like a blood cloud, enveloped a starship, and the hell wraiths began gnawing at it, their sharp teeth scraping with a piercing screech. The wraiths, eat anything, trait started to work, and the incredibly tough starship finally showed scratches. The surface was gnawed open, revealing the interior, and a strange aura leaked out. Lin Moyu's eyes flickered. So this is what starships are made of. He finally understood. The starships were made of DAOs, specifically, origin DAOs. The tech world had somehow compressed origin DAOs into spheres. DAOs are immense, and compressing them into a sphere of this size would take an enormous amount. DAOs are already extremely tough, and after being compressed many times, they become even tougher. No wonder the starships were so hard, and why the undead servants' attacks were useless. To damage a heavily compressed origin DAO was truly difficult. But no matter how compressed, once it encountered bone hell, it was doomed. Hell wraiths had devoured DAOs before. Even compressed DAOs, they could still eat, just more slowly. DAOs were a delicacy, a source of energy, and the hell wraiths feasted happily. The starship's surface was gnawed away, its size shrinking. This time, Lycong World panicked again. The mechanical voice called out, "Cultivator, we surrender. Please stop. We can agree to your previous demands." Lin Moyu replied, "No need. I already know what starships are made of. Such tricks are useless to me. As for your tech data, it's not essential. Since you won't give it, then just keep me company a little longer." With a thought, some undead servants charged into the world mist, following Karma straight to Lycong World. The 10 starships here couldn't escape. Next was world annihilation. Lin Moyu was never merciful. He'd destroyed many races before. Wiping out a world was nothing to him. The undead servants quickly found Lycong World, which was surrounded by all kinds of tech instruments and a sizable defensive force. But faced with the undead servants' onslaught, it was destroyed in an instant. That day, a true cataclysm descended on Lycong World. 3890, 3890. Chapter 3890, Celestial God Civilization. Lin Moyu no longer paid attention to the starships. With his undead servants and bone hell present, nothing could go wrong. He entered Lycong World and finally saw the true face of a technological world. In Lin Moyu's view, among the laws of heaven and earth, technological worlds are truly unique. They have their own path, but that path can never reach the ultimate peak. Being able to use great DAOs to manufacture starships already makes them extremely formidable. But compared to top-tier world lords, they are still lacking, let alone compared to eternal beings. For instance, a great DAO desolate beast king could handle starships with little difficulty. If it were the human emperor, he could probably shatter a starship with a single slap, regardless of how many layers it was compressed. The king of time could create time chaos and collapse, which would also resolve starships easily. For great DAO lords, destroying starships is simply too easy. With these thoughts, Lin Moyu followed his undead servants into the interior of Lycong World. Lycong World was somewhat similar to the former Great Worlds. It had its own starry sky, various celestial bodies, stars, planets, and so on. The world's yin-yang source seemed to be dispersed. Lin Moyu could sense its power but couldn't find any trace of its existence. Suddenly, Lin Moyu sensed a special great DAO, one he had never encountered before, not even in the origin ancestral land. He was confident in his perception. These two great DAOs didn't seem to exist in the origin ancestral land. If they did, he would have sensed them. What kind of great DAO is this? I've never sensed it in the origin ancestral land. Could it be hidden? His eyes revealed a hint of excitement. Encountering a brand new great DAO was something to be delighted about. If he could incorporate this great DAO into the myriad worlds, it would become even more complete. While the undead servants brought catastrophe, Lin Moyu stopped paying attention to the dreamlike world around him and focused on sensing this great DAO. Rarely did he concentrate so fully. Even with his current ability, it would still take ages to fully comprehend a great DAO. But just to touch its surface wouldn't take long. Lin Moyu didn't intend to master this great DAO. He just wanted to see what it was for, what made it special, and whether he could bring it into his own myriad worlds. Gradually, his expression turned odd. After only a short time, Lin Moyu discovered that this great DAO was different from ordinary ones. This great Tao set many rules, forcing the entire Lycong world to obey them. Its rules were so powerful that as long as you were in Lycong world, you had to follow them. So overbearing, Lin Moyu felt this great Tao was even more domineering than the world will of the origin continent, not allowing any resistance. Time, speed, space, gravity, they're all fused together. Time is constant, speed has an upper limit, space has a rhythm. Lin Moyu tried flying at his fastest in Lycong world and found his speed was capped. He could get infinitely close to the limit, but never surpass it. Not even 300,000 kilometers per second. When reaching the maximum speed, my personal time changed, becoming out of sync with external time. The faster I went, the slower my time became. From the depths of his memory, Lin Moyu suddenly recalled something from his previous life. In that world, it was said that the speed of light was about 300,000 kilometers per second. That was the rule of physics in his past life. Everything was based on physics. Lin Moyu was shocked. Could this great Tao be the physics great Tao? He understood now this was the physics great Tao, the cornerstone of technological worlds. The physics great Tao is not a defensive or offensive Tao, but a rare rules type Tao. It sets the rules everyone in the world must follow, guiding them down the path of technology. With technological advancement, they can ultimately gain great power, the so-called mechanical ascension. Inside Lycong world, Lin Moyu saw many souls. These souls still had the bodies of ordinary living beings, but their insides were completely different. Nearly every being, even newborns, had undergone extensive modification. There were no normal living beings left. Everyone was half mechanical. Some were even completely integrated with machines. They used technology to preserve their souls, abandoning their flesh. In this way, their lifespans could be extended, and eventually, they could merge with powerful machines to achieve immortality. This Tao was too strange. Lin Moyu didn't feel comfortable looking at it, but it was the foundation of Lycong world. Under the slaughter of the undead servants, the world was on the verge of collapse. Lin Moyu tried several times but couldn't extract this great Tao. It was hidden in the deepest part of the world and completely uncontrollable. It only set rules and never revealed itself. At this point, an undead servant flew over, holding something. "Master, we found their data archive." It was a crystal, as beautiful as jade. Inside the semi-transparent crystal, countless tadpole-like characters swam about. Lycong world used this kind of synthetic crystal to store information. Technology allowed souls to exist for many years, and for convenience, they could use their souls to read the contents of the crystal. With a thought, Lin Moyu used his soul power and instantly received the detailed information within. Most of it was about technology, which he only half understood. If Xiao Zontian were here, maybe he'd understand more. But the important part was that the crystal described things about Lycong world and the Tech Alliance much more detailed than what the clone had said. The Tech Alliance consisted of 3,276 worlds, ranked by technological level from 1 lowest to 9 highest. Within the Tech Alliance, they never called themselves worlds, but civilizations. In their own words, Lycong civilization was the master of space power, and all Lycong people were envoys of space. They had a glorious history, but today, that history was about to end. Lycong civilization's technology had reached level 7, which, as the clone said, was upper mid-tier. Level 7 civilizations were among the best in the Tech Alliance, with few at this level. Level 8 was even rarer, and there was only one level 9 civilization. Lin Moyu saw their definitions for civilization levels. Level 7 can use technology to materialize great Taos and manipulate, process them. Level 8 can fuse multiple great Taos, process and create with them, and invent even more advanced war machines. Level 9 can alter physical rules within a certain range, causing a region to collapse and lose all original physical laws, and have even created causality weapons capable of easily destroying worlds. According to Lycong civilization's records, level 9 civilization is omnipotent. There is nothing they cannot do. This civilization is called the Celestial God Civilization. Its people are known as celestial gods. There was even an image of a celestial god in the data. When Lin Moyu saw it, his expression changed dramatically. Extraterritorial celestial god. 3891, 3891. Chapter 3891, Black Mountain Civilization. The people of the Celestial God Civilization looked almost identical to the extraterrestrial celestial gods. Lin Moyu had killed many of the extraterrestrial celestial gods and was extremely familiar with their appearance. He could not possibly be mistaken. But how could the extraterrestrial celestial gods be connected to the celestial god civilization of the Tech Alliance? The extraterrestrial celestial gods were cultivators, while the celestial god civilization was a purely technological world. The two were fundamentally different. Could it be just a resemblance? Lin Moyu immediately dismissed this thought. Looking similar wasn't impossible, but being exactly the same was. Besides, the Lycong civilization's data only had a single illustration, which might not be entirely accurate. If he really wanted to know, he'd have to see for himself. The Lycong civilization's data also contained a general introduction to the Tech Alliance. In the Tech Alliance, most civilizations had abandoned their useless flesh, living in the form of souls. They stored their souls in various technological products and were no longer truly living beings. Over time, even their thinking changed. Many civilizations now believed that machinery was the true path, and the body was only useful for reproduction, nothing else. Some civilizations had even begun experimenting with soul-based reproduction, hoping to produce the next generation through souls alone. If successful, they could truly abandon the flesh. Lin Moyu had to admit, this was a bold idea, but in his eyes, the chances of success were not high. In Lycong world, planet after planet was blown apart. One attack from the undead servants could destroy an entire star system, sometimes even more. In less than half a day, more than half of Lycong world was destroyed. Lin Moyu calculated, if they asked for help from the outside, the time should be about right. Lycong civilization was a member of the Tech Alliance. If they were in trouble, they could definitely call for support. Lin Moyu had the undead servants slow down, waiting for reinforcements to arrive. If the reinforcements attacked him, that would create karma, giving him a reason to go after them as well. He wanted to visit the celestial god civilization and see what differences there really were between the celestial gods and the extraterrestrial celestial gods. As the end of life in Lycong world approached and 2/3 of its planets had been destroyed, those non-human, non-living beings were dead beyond dead. The undead servants left nothing alive. This was the true meaning of, not even a dog or chicken left. Finally, after a day of battle and a twist in space, the Tech Alliance's reinforcements arrived. Fleets of warships appeared in the void and rushed into Lycong world. After assessing the situation, they charged straight at Lin Moyu. These warships came in all shapes and sizes, some strong, some weak, composed of armies from different civilizations. The leading warship was the strongest, and Lin Moyu faintly sensed danger from it. These warships were only 10,000 meters long, much smaller than the million-meter giants, but their combat power far surpassed those massive warships. On their hulls were images of towering mountains, like the totems of their civilization. These are the warships of the Black Mountain civilization. Having just read Lycong civilization's data, Lin Moyu knew Black Mountain civilization was an 8th-level civilization, second only to the 9th-level celestial god civilization. Lin Moyu quietly watched the arriving reinforcements, then gave the order for the undead servants to intensify their attacks. There was no need for much explanation. His actions alone made it clear he would not stop. As expected, when the undead servants moved faster, the reinforcements grew anxious. With so little of Lycong civilization's world left, any further delay would mean its total destruction. Several Black Mountain civilization warships immediately initiated spatial jumps to stop the undead servants, opening fire as they went, their attacks tearing through space. Black Mountain civilization, worthy of being an 8th-level civilization, unleashed attacks even stronger than Lycong civilization's starships. The undead servants suffered casualties under their assault. Lin Moyu didn't understand technology and didn't know what kind of tech Black Mountain civilization used, but he could tell their attacks were no weaker than a full-strength strike from an Origin Dao Lord. When dozens of attacks combined, their power increased even further. The undead servants took some losses, but they reacted quickly, regrouping and counter-attacking by wielding the sword Great Dao wrapped in the gold Great Dao, the same method used against Lycong civilization's warships. Black Mountain civilization raised a thin shield that blocked the undead servants' Great Dao attacks. The undead servants' attacks were powerful enough, but were stopped by this inconspicuous shield. Lin Moyu frowned. He realized it wasn't that the shield was so strong, but that the undead servants' attacks had been weakened. The undead servants' attacks were affected. There was no visible change, but they were much weaker than outside. They changed the Great Dao. Lin Moyu observed carefully and found that these Black Mountain civilization warships were constantly emitting a certain power. This power was formless and intangible, yet it could weaken the undead servants' attacks and strengthen their own. After repeated observation, Lin Moyu confirmed it was the work of Black Mountain civilization. They used technological means to forcibly twist the Great Tao, so much so that the undead servants didn't even realize their own Taos had been altered, causing their power to drop. All of this was because of that special Great Tao in the technological world, the Physics Great Tao. The Physics Great Tao could be said to be the foundation of the technological world. Everything here was subordinate to it. Technological civilizations could use the Physics Great Tao to set rules, change rules, and influence other powers. What an interesting world. In Lin Moyu's perception, these technological civilizations seemed like a special anomaly in the universe. Their existence didn't seem to have much to do with the rest of the world. The fact that the Physics Great Tao didn't exist in the origin ancestral land proved this. Even though his own immortality Great Tao wasn't in the origin ancestral land, it existed in the source land. But the Physics Great Tao existed nowhere else, only here. Relying on their numbers, the undead servants besieged the Black Mountain civilization's warships. Although individually weaker, their numbers allowed them to fight to a standstill. If the battle dragged on, Lin Moyu believed he could wear the enemy down. A hoarse voice spoke. "Cultivator, why are you invading our world?" Suddenly, an image appeared in the void before Lin Moyu. The figure was as tall as a mountain, with a huge head and countless vines hanging down like hair. Looking closely, his body was actually a mountain-like machine, and the vines were like cables. Lin Moyu spoke softly. "Are you from Black Mountain civilization?" The other replied in a low voice. "I am Black Lin, commander of the Black Mountain civilization's army." "Who are you?" Lin Moyu said. "I am Lin Moyu. I didn't want to attack Lycong civilization, but they deceived me. I really hate being lied to. For that reason alone." Though already half mechanical, Black Lin's expression was still vivid. He was clearly shocked that the reason was so simple. Lin Moyu said, "Does it need to be more complicated? I think that's reason enough." Black Lin said, "Destroying a civilization and slaughtering countless lives just for being deceived, isn't that too much?" Lin Moyu shook his head. "I think if you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. That price is set by me, not by you." 3892, 3892. Chapter 3892. No need to hide, you can't escape anyway. Lin Moyu's words were forceful, giving Black Lin no face at all. Black Lin's expression turned a bit ugly. He hadn't yet shed the shell of a living being like the Lycong civilization had. However, he seemed unwilling to start a war with Lin Moyu and ultimately suppressed his displeasure. "What will it take for you to stop?" Lin Moyu shook his head. "This world is doomed to be destroyed by me. After I destroy this world, I'll come for you." Black Lin's face twisted with anger. "Your target is us." Lin Moyu shook his head. "Not at all. My goal before was only that gate. As for you oddities, I had no interest in bothering with you. But now I've discovered something interesting. I want to visit the Celestial God civilization." Black Lin's pupils obviously contracted. "Why do you want to go to the Celestial God civilization?" Lin Moyu replied, "Naturally, I have business there. I wonder if you can point me in the right direction." Lin Moyu made his attitude clear. Lycong civilization's level wasn't enough, they couldn't reach the Celestial God civilization. But Black Lin's civilization could, so he wanted to use Black Mountain civilization as a springboard to contact the Celestial God civilization and see what difference there was between the Celestial Gods and the extraterrestrial Celestial Gods. Black Lin's expression was odd. "You don't need to go. We don't know where the Celestial God civilization is either." Lin Moyu was surprised. "You don't know?" Black Lin said, "That's right, we really don't. The Celestial God civilization is noble and mysterious, the only level 9 civilization. All our civilizations know of its existence, but none know where it is." Lin Moyu said, "I'm not sure if you're lying to me. Once I destroy Lycong civilization, I'll come to Black Mountain civilization myself. Maybe then I'll get the real answer." Black Lin's expression twisted. "You're really going to destroy Lycong civilization? If you do, you'll become the common enemy of our entire tech alliance." Lin Moyu showed no fear, and even looked excited. "Maybe if I cripple all of you, destroy a few more civilizations, the Celestial God civilization will show up." Black Lin shook his head. "No, it won't. We once had a great war with the Science Tao Alliance. Both alliances suffered massive casualties, with nearly 1,000 civilizations destroyed. Even then, the Celestial God civilization never appeared. And not just us, the most powerful and equally mysterious Haishui civilization in the Science Tao Alliance also never appeared. At this, Lin Moyu was startled. You said Haishui civilization? Black Lin said, yes, Haishui civilization. Like the Celestial God civilization, it's a level 9 civilization and the leader of the Science Tao Alliance. They are just as mysterious and powerful, but also rarely appear. The more Lin Moyu listened, the more shocked he became. The Celestial God civilization and the Haishui civilization corresponded to the Celestial God realm and the Blackwater realm. If one was a coincidence, two could not be. There are no such coincidences in the universe. Lin Moyu deeply sensed that there must be something hidden here. He hadn't expected that in searching for this gate, he'd uncover such a huge secret. Lin Moyu became even more determined to seek out these two civilizations and get to the bottom of things. He had a feeling that fully opening the gate was also closely related to these two civilizations. By the workings of fate, there must be some arrangement in the universe. The gate had come here, and his own arrival was perhaps a matter of karma. Lin Moyu said, it seems we have to fight. Once I cripple your alliance, maybe the Celestial God civilization will appear. If not, I'll go to the Science Tao Alliance and look for the Haishui civilization. I believe there's karma between these two civilizations. Find one, and you'll find the other. Lin Moyu openly voiced his intentions, and his words carried more threat than anything else. He still didn't believe Black Lin's words. These tech types were always scheming. Black Lin seemed to make a last effort. You've seen it yourself, our warships are very powerful, and we can weaken your attacks. We have many such warships. Lin Moyu laughed. You may be confident in your technology, but... As he spoke, Lin Moyu's will moved, and a vast power erupted. The power of the myriad worlds descended, and a phantom of the world appeared in the void. Its immense power instantly altered the rules of this space, making the power of the heavenly Tao strong again. In the world mist, the myriad worlds were suppressed, and its influence was limited. At first, it could only affect 1,000 kilometers, after years of growth, it could affect 10,000. But inside Lycong civilization's world, without the suppression of the world mist, the myriad worlds were no longer restricted. Its influence filled the entire Lycong world. With the two worlds overlapping, the myriad worlds forcibly changed the rules of Lycong world, even blocking the physics rules. Without the physics rules, Black Mountain civilization's warships' attack power dropped sharply. Explosions sounded as the warships were blown apart on the spot. The undead servants turned and slaughtered the supporting warships from other civilizations. None escaped. The myriad world's power sealed the space, leaving them no way to flee. In the end, only one Black Mountain civilization warship remained. Lin Moyu still wanted to talk to Black Lin. Black Lin now looked grave, his expression complex. He hadn't expected Lin Moyu's strength to be so overwhelming. Lin Moyu said, I forgot to mention my subordinates are just as numerous as your warships, probably more. Now that we have karma, you don't need to hide. You can't escape anyway. When I come knocking, I hope you'll be more honest. With that, the undead servant struck, smashing the last warship to pieces. The image before him vanished, and Lin Moyu smiled coldly. They should be feeling the pressure now. This lightning-fast blow was enough to put pressure on the Black Mountain civilization. They would surely analyze his combat power and then decide what to do. In the end, it wasn't really about fighting. Lin Moyu believed they would ultimately compromise. As a technological civilization, they were best at analysis, and if they knew they were bound to lose, they wouldn't want to fight. Lin Moyu withdrew the myriad worlds, waved his hand, and sent out the world-burning fire, which blazed through Lycong civilization's world. Lycong civilization had been drained of all value, now the only thing left was to refine it into a world crystal. Hopefully, I can obtain the physics Great Tao. After a world is refined into a world crystal, some of its Great Taos are preserved. Once the myriad worlds absorbs it, there's a chance to acquire its Great Tao. Lin Moyu hoped to get the physics Great Tao to make the myriad worlds even more diverse. He believed that a world's diversity was essential. Different elements could collide and create new sparks, making the whole world stronger. Leaving Lycong world, Bone Hell appeared before him, and Lin Moyu waved and put it away. The 10 starships of Lycong civilization had been devoured, along with the mechanical beings inside. The starships were actually made of Great Taos, giving the Hell Wraiths a feast and further strengthening Bone Hell's power. Some of the Hell Wraiths, now full, climbed onto the river of fire, lining up to head toward the World Tree. They were about to enter reincarnation, to be reborn as members of the myriad worlds. Reincarnation had already begun within the myriad worlds. 3893, 3893. Chapter 3893, Killing You Isn't Difficult. The territory of Lycong world was vast. The world-burning fire burned for over 2 months before completely refining it. The world-burning fire grew stronger again since Lin Moyu began refining worlds. The previously stagnant world-burning fire had started to advance. In the past, refining a world like this would have taken at least 6 months. Now, 2 months was enough. Lin Moyu played with the freshly forged, still warm world crystal. This crystal from a technological world was somewhat different from those he'd obtained before. In cultivator worlds, there are more great Daos, so after refining, the world crystal naturally contains much more great Dao power. In technological worlds, the number of great Daos is relatively small, and even those present are often used to forge warships, so the world crystal's internal Daos are sparse. However, there was a faint, unusual aura within something Lin Moyu had been seeking, the physics great Dao. He tossed the world crystal into the myriad worlds and watched as it was devoured and refined. Gradually, a brand new great Dao appeared within his world. Lin Moyu was delighted. It worked. With the emergence of the physics great Dao, the myriad worlds became more complete, and Lin Moyu could clearly sense its power growing again. Now, with the physics great Dao, his undead servants could mobilize it to counteract the technological effects. For example, the influence Black Mountain Civilization's warships had on his undead servants would be greatly reduced even without the myriad worlds' help. Those warships could now be destroyed. With the physics great Dao, his undead servants would be much more confident facing technological civilizations and less affected by their tricks. It's time to set out and get to the bottom of this, Lin Moyu said, riding Huo-san toward Black Mountain Civilization. He traveled through the mist technological worlds corresponded to the Tianzhou Great Spirit Domain, and the region was vast. The distance between worlds was not small. These technological civilizations must have some way to locate each world and use special means to travel between them almost instantly. Their use of space was in no way inferior to space Dao Lords. After a few days, Lin Moyu also began to teleport. The myriad world's influence only covered a few thousand kilometers, too small for effective teleportation. After several attempts, he realized flying was still faster. He couldn't use the same chaotic methods as his undead servants, who could leverage the myriad worlds to manipulate the local Daos. Ordinary methods didn't work, so he considered the methods used by technological civilizations. They didn't rely on the space great Dao, but instead folded space with massive energy, creating a short tunnel between 2 points for spatial jumps. This was more direct and forceful, not true mastery of space, and in Lin Moyu's eyes, not a proper method. Still, he could use it if needed. With a surge of power, he twisted space before him, and a distant point millions of miles away also warped under his will. The two spaces folded together, and Lin Moyu stepped through, instantly arriving 100,000 miles away. Jumping 100,000 miles at a time wasn't fast. He could fly that far in a blink, but as he practiced, his speed increased. Eventually, he could fold millions of miles at once, teleporting in an instant much faster than flying. Even so, Lin Moyu knew this wasn't the right path. A true space great Dao Lord could teleport anywhere within the Dao's reach, regardless of distance. This proved that the technological path, while possible, could never reach the peak. 10 days later, following the thread of karma, Lin Moyu arrived in Black Mountain Civilization's territory. He knew they were aware of his approach. Along the way, countless photon detectors had surely relayed the information back. Ahead, the mist parted, revealing Black Mountain Civilization's massive fleet. There were over 1 billion ships, fewer than Lycong Civilization, but each one much stronger. In the end, technological advancement pursues quality over quantity. At the front were over 100 triangular warships, each about 10,000 meters long. Though not huge, they gave Lin Moyu a sense of real danger. These 100 triangular ships were likely Black Mountain Civilization's trump card, their strongest force. Lin Moyu smiled. Looks like you're ready. Let's have a fight, then. Snap. With a snap of his fingers, 100 billion undead servants appeared in the void. The undead formed battle formations, each radiating a different great Dao, exuding overwhelming power. In terms of momentum, Lin Moyu's side was superior. The pressure of Dao Lords swept the void, greatly affecting Black Mountain Civilization's people. Even their thoughts slowed. If not for their modifications, they might not have been able to move at all. From a distance of millions of miles, Black Mountain Civilization projected an image into the void. Black Lin appeared again. Cultivator, you should know we don't want to be your enemy. Lin Moyu replied, actually, dealing with you isn't hard. I can crush you head-on, or use soul attacks to destroy your souls like this. He flicked out a bit of world-burning fire and simultaneously opened space, instantly teleporting the fire onto a triangular warship. As the flames landed, screams erupted from within. A shield automatically appeared, forcefully isolating the fire. But the world-burning fire continued to burn on the shield, impossible to extinguish by normal means. Lin Moyu laughed. Nice shield, but can you live under it forever? If I want, I can spread this fire across your entire world in an instant. This was a new tactic he'd just thought of. In these technological worlds, people's souls were weak. The world-burning fire could completely suppress them. Black Lin looked grim. Your strength is beyond our imagination. This war is meaningless for both sides and can be avoided. Please state your terms. Lin Moyu said, you claim not to know where the celestial god civilization is. I'll take your word for it. But I want all your data related to the celestial god civilization. And I want your technology data as well. You know I'm a cultivator, I'm just curious. But I suggest you give me the real thing. If you deceive me, I'll come back, and your end will be the same as Lycong worlds burned to ashes, everyone dead. Lin Moyu laid out his demands. Whether they agreed or not was up to Black Mountain civilization. As with Lycong civilization, he gave them a chance. Whether they seized it was not his concern. Black Lin was clearly consulting with others. After a long while, he replied, you must swear that the technology data we give you won't be shared with anyone else. Lin Moyu smiled. I can only promise not to give it to the Tech Alliance or the Science Dao Alliance. Beyond that, I can't guarantee. 3894, 3894. Chapter 3894, Reconnecting Causality. After repeated threats and witnessing Lin Moyu's abilities, even without a direct fight, Black Mountain civilization could already analyze the outcome. The result? They would definitely lose, no matter what. Even if they rallied several other 8th-level civilizations, they still wouldn't be able to defeat Lin Moyu. 100 billion undead servants, each one so powerful. Lin Moyu's display of strength left them in despair. Faced with the survival of their civilization, Lin Moyu's demands didn't seem so excessive anymore. Lin Moyu knew that technological civilizations excel at analysis, and he trusted they'd reach the correct conclusion. A few minutes later, Black Lin spoke again. We can agree to your demands, but... Lin Moyu interrupted, no buts. You have no bargaining chips, and my patience is limited. Black Lin replied helplessly, we accept your terms. Please wait. Moments later, 2 information crystals flew over. An undead servant collected and checked them, then handed them to Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu didn't check them immediately. He wasn't worried about Black Mountain civilization trying to deceive him, unless they had a death wish. He said, to be honest, I originally planned to kill you all. Refining a world brings me considerable benefits. Black Lin seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Through the projection, he looked quietly at Lin Moyu. I hope you'll keep your word. Lin Moyu smiled, don't worry. I always keep my promises. With a wave, Lin Moyu turned and disappeared into the world mist. Black Mountain civilization, being shrewd enough, escaped disaster. Through their photon detectors, they confirmed Lin Moyu had left and finally relaxed. In the world mist, Lin Moyu had Huo-san slowly move away as he began to examine the information in the crystals. As an 8th-level civilization, Black Mountain civilization's understanding of the celestial god civilization far surpassed that of Lycong civilization. They had personally seen envoys from the celestial god civilization and experienced their power. The Tech Alliance was even founded at the celestial god civilization's suggestion. Although the celestial god civilization rarely appeared, every civilization in the Tech Alliance was subordinate to them and had to obey their orders. The data included detailed and accurate images of the celestial god civilization. Lin Moyu was 100% certain. The celestial god civilization and the extraterritorial celestial gods from the celestial god realm were exactly the same. The envoy who once descended on Black Mountain civilization had a pair of wings. From the data, Lin Moyu discerned a key difference. The celestial god civilization was not purely a technological civilization. Otherwise, there wouldn't be members with 10 pairs of wings. 10-winged extraterritorial celestial gods are Dao lords. Clearly, the celestial god civilization harbored significant secrets. But indeed, no one knew where the celestial god civilization was. They always appeared on their own initiative, displaying their power and maintaining their status. After reading about the celestial god civilization, Lin Moyu skimmed the technology data. He couldn't understand it, but that didn't matter. He integrated it into the myriad worlds. Under the influence of the physics great Tao, perhaps some worlds would evolve down the technological path. The physics great Tao set its own rules in a given region, without affecting other Taos. In this area, there were also some middle and small worlds. If anyone pursued the technological path, this data could play a role in the background. In Lin Moyu's view, cultivation and technology are not in conflict. Maybe they can't be perfectly integrated yet, but perhaps one day, he'll make it happen. Back when Xiao Zontian obtained the technological artifact, it barely saved his life and later protected the human race for 1,000,000 years. For this reason, Lin Moyu would never underestimate the value of technology. Having finished, his next goal was to search for the celestial god civilization. Lin Moyu pondered how to proceed. The celestial god civilization was definitely here, but the world was vast and hard to search. If he searched from the soul void, it might be easier, but that wasn't a good method. There would be too many limitations. If the celestial god civilization and the celestial god realm are connected, then after the celestial god realm's defeat, would they return to seek out the celestial god civilization? That possibility is high. I have karma with the celestial god realm. Maybe I can use that to find the celestial god civilization. Lin Moyu tried to sense the karmic threads tied to him, but after searching for a while, he found nothing. Why can't I find it? He wondered. He'd killed so many extraterritorial celestial gods, his karma with the celestial god realm should be obvious. Why couldn't he find it? There was only one possibility. The celestial god realm had forcibly severed its karmic connection with the origin continent, which also cut off his karma with them. That must be it. The celestial god civilization has causal weapons. If they wanted to cut karma, it's not impossible. This is troublesome, Lin Moyu muttered. This wasn't some secret realm he could sweep with his undead army. Even if he sent out 1,000,000,000,000 undead, in this boundless space, they'd be just a drop in the ocean. After thinking it over, Lin Moyu thought of the Lord of Cause and Effect, and Yuyan. Maybe she could help. He took out a causality seed and activated it with his soul, sending a message, "Senior, are you there?" The omnipresent cause and effect great Tao trembled slightly, and Lin Moyu's words were transmitted through it. A moment later, and Yuyan's slightly lazy voice sounded, "Fellow Taoist Lin, what's the matter?" Lin Moyu said, "I'm searching for a world, but the other side has severed karma. Do you have a way?" And Yuyan replied, "I can temporarily reconnect the severed karma and point you in the right direction." Lin Moyu asked, "Is a lump of desolate beast essence enough?" Hearing that, and Yuyan perked up. "Fellow Taoist Lin, you're too polite. That's more than enough for a small favor. Wait a moment, I'll be right there." So much for a small favor. Lin Moyu had thought she'd help for free, but in the end, it was all about the desolate beast essence. After a while, the void twisted and a clone of the Lord of Cause and Effect appeared before Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu truly envied these great Tao lords. By relying on their Taos, they could break the boundary between reality and illusion and travel anywhere in an instant. And Yuyan looked Lin Moyu up and down. "You have several karmic threads that have already been cut. Which one do you want reconnected?" Lin Moyu described the celestial god realm and briefly simulated the aura of the extraterritorial celestial gods. "So it's them," and Yuyan chuckled, and with a flick of her jade finger, a faint light appeared on Lin Moyu. A barely visible thread of karmic energy was drawn out so fine Lin Moyu could barely see it. He asked, "Senior, you know the celestial god realm?" And Yuyan replied, "Of course. That world is too unusual, all of us great Tao lords know something about it." Lin Moyu said, "Could you tell me more?" And Yuyan smiled. "They are a technological world, called the celestial god civilization, but their path is a dead end. They can't reach eternity. So they tried to find another way." 3895, 3895. Chapter 3895, Stepping Stone. Living a long life really does have its advantages. There's so much more you know. Although she isn't like the discernment beast, who can hear and see everything, and Yuyan's knowledge far surpasses Lin Moyu's. Lin Moyu suspects that An Yuyan attained the Tao even before the first era of the origin continent. And Yuyan began to recount some things about the celestial god civilization. This is an ancient region. Lin Moyu sensed it upon arrival. Black Mountain civilization is also ancient, even older than much of the origin continent. Ancient regions are special. Here, a unique great Tao suppresses all others and sets its own rules. No one knows where this great Tao comes from, not even in Yuan. This great Tao is the physics great Tao. Because of its existence, the worlds in this region are difficult to cultivate in, so the beings here walked another path, the path of technology. The corresponding soul void regions are the Tianyu and Tianzhou great spirit domains. Tianzhou is most deeply affected by the physics great Tao. People there have completely severed the path of cultivation and follow only the path of technology. In Tianyu, the influence is lighter, so their worlds combine cultivation and technology. The interplay of yin and yang, reality and illusion, ultimately formed the current landscape. But regardless of the path, all are limited and cannot reach the peak. What in Yuan calls the peak is eternity, not just the final step. The celestial god civilization is just like this. Their technology reached its zenith, forming the Tech Alliance and dividing technology into 9 levels. They stand at the very top, the only 9th level civilization. But when technology reached its peak, the celestial god civilization realized their road was cut off, they could go no further. So they began searching for a new path. They discovered the worlds outside realms where cultivation was possible, where individuals could seek immortality, comprehend the great Tao, and live forever without relying on technology. At great cost, they sent a world into the outer realms, away from the influence of the physics great Tao. But the impact of the physics great Tao was so deep that even after leaving its range, it took countless years for that world to evolve the many Taos suitable for cultivation. The celestial god civilization went through many generations during this time, but eventually, they could cultivate. They slowly comprehended the great Tao, grew stronger, fought off external enemies, and became a brilliant, powerful world. That world is the celestial god realm. The celestial god realm and the celestial god civilization were originally one, with deep foundations and a far greater understanding of power than other, more ignorant worlds. They seized control of the world will early on, transforming the world into something akin to a technological product. Their goal was for the world will to lead the entire world to ascend. In their vision, when the world will attained eternity, there would be no need to sacrifice the world's inhabitants. Everyone, even newborns, could achieve the Tao and live forever. Life in the celestial god realm would become beautiful, but before that, they needed powerful warriors, so the world enforced a brutal selection mechanism. Lin Moyu recalled the selection mechanism he'd seen in the celestial god realm's sealed depths. It was indeed cruel. No wonder those inverted triangle buildings felt so technological, so this is the origin of the celestial god realm. Lin Moyu asked, what about the Blackwater realm? And Yuan smiled. The Blackwater realm was originally the Blackwater civilization, which followed a path of combined cultivation and technology. At first, they were much like the celestial god civilization, reaching a dead end and seeking a new path. The difference is, they found a special world, one cursed. At the time, the people of Blackwater didn't realize it and were affected by the curse. So, they were all reborn. The whole world was swallowed by Blackwater, then re-emerged from it, becoming what they are now, neither human nor ghost. But they also gained certain benefits from the Blackwater. Blackwater realm beings are very hard to kill, and their combat power is strong. Everything in Yuan described matched Lin Moyu's impression of the Blackwater realm. He murmured, a cursed world, if I remember right. The origin of the Blackwater realm was a single drop of blood. And Yuan laughed. That's right, but it wasn't just any blood, it was the blood of the Lord of Curses. Back then, the Lord of Curses did some unsavory things to take his final step, creating immense karma. When that karma erupted, the Lord of Curses fell into silence, and a drop of his essence blood evolved into a special world, which the Blackwater civilization took back with them. So the Blackwater realm's world wasn't naturally evolved, but a false world created from the Lord of Curses' blood. The Blackwater civilization was cursed, becoming neither human nor ghost. The web of cause and effect here is truly tangled. And Yuan narrowed her eyes. Lin friend, it seems you also have karma with the Blackwater realm. My advice, don't get involved. After all, this involves the Lord of Curses. Lin Moyu could tell that Yuan was wary of the Lord of Curses. He didn't even know what kind of person the Lord of Curses was. But karma is already formed. Sometimes, it's not up to me, Lin Moyu sighed. And Yuan said, if you wish, I can help you sever this karma. Lin Moyu thought for a moment and said quietly, then I'll trouble you. And Yuan replied, it's nothing. As the Lord of Cause and Effect, severing karma was easy for her. She reached out a pale finger and drew out a thread of karma, making it manifest. This thread was hidden very deeply. If not for the Lord of Cause and Effect, Lin Moyu wouldn't have seen it at all. On the karmic thread, Lin Moyu sensed the aura of the black blood realm. And Yuyan pinched the thread, as if to break it, but it was incredibly tough and wouldn't snap. She frowned, put more force into it, but still it wouldn't break. Her expression grew grave. She grasped the karmic thread with one hand and chopped at it with the other. A tremor rang out in Lin Moyu's soul, and his body felt as if it were being tugged, somewhat uncomfortable. And Yuyan's avatar was flung back thousands of meters with a cry of surprise. Lin Moyu asked, "Senior, what happened?" When Yuyan returned, her face was extremely grave. "He's coming back." Lin Moyu's heart stirred. "The Lord of Curses." And Yuyan nodded solemnly. "Yes, and he's chosen you as his stepping stone. You must be careful." 3896. 3896. Chapter 3896, It's Not Certain Who Will Die. Lin Moyu showed a hint of confusion, not fully understanding what Yuyan meant. And Yuyan explained, "A great Tao Lord does not die, only falls into silence. One day, they will return. The reasons for their silence vary, and so do their ways of returning. The Lord of Curses, during his silence, said a curse. When he returns, he will curse and kill all beings, condense the strongest cursed body, and once again attempt the final step. Cursing all beings is easy to understand, but condensing the strongest cursed body is more complicated. The cursed body is very special. First, it requires an almost perfect physical vessel. On that foundation, it is then wrapped with the power of curses and the blood of all beings to form the shell." Lin Moyu said quietly, "So, the Lord of Curses chose me as his vessel after silence. Doesn't he want his own body?" And Yuyan shook her head. "He never had a physical body." Lin Moyu couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. This answer was far too unexpected. The Lord of Curses never had a physical body, so what kind of existence is he? And Yuyan pondered for a moment, then said slowly, "When I attained the Tao, he was already close to silence, so I don't know much about his past. What I've said is all deduced from cause and effect. His existence is very unique. He's the most special among us. Since he's chosen you as his stepping stone, you must be careful. It's best if you achieve eternity before he returns, only then will you have the capital to resist him." Lin Moyu thought for a moment. "Besides me, his return is probably also tied to the Black Blood Realm. In that case, if I destroy the Black Blood Realm, can I block his path to return?" And Yuyan replied, "Perhaps. But the Black Blood Realm contains his essence blood. When you act, you must be cautious. The Lord of Curses is so strange and unpredictable that even Yuyan, herself a great Tao Lord, is extremely wary of him, let alone Lin Moyu." Lin Moyu said, "Thank you for the warning, Senior. I'll be careful." And Yuyan nodded. "Your karma with the Celestial God Realm has been reconnected, and I've also revealed your karma with the Black Blood Realm. With my power of cause and effect, you should be able to find them. Be careful in all things. Until we meet again." And Yuyan left, delighted with the desolate beast essence she received. Before she left, Lin Moyu clearly saw a trace of regret in her eyes. She pitied him. In her view, Lin Moyu stood almost no chance in a contest with the Lord of Curses. After all, he was only a Tao Lord, still far from the Lord of Curses level. But Lin Moyu didn't care. No matter who stood in his way, Lord of Curses or anyone else, he would crush them all. "Next, I'll go find the Celestial God Realm." Lin Moyu activated the power of cause and effect, linking himself to the Celestial God Realm. This reconnected karma was not strong and would only last a short while. Soon, it would be severed again. The Celestial God Realm had clearly cut off karma with him, not wanting any further connection. As for the Origin Continent, they had already abandoned it. But things are never that simple. As for the Black Blood Realm, even without the Lord of Curses, Lin Moyu would have sought them out to settle scores. Gold Lion Tao Lord had also given him a karma crystal. Even without Yuyan's help, he could find them. Between him and the Black Blood Realm, it was a matter of life and death, a debt that had dragged on since the Great World, and now it was time to settle it. The power of cause and effect pointed the way, and Lin Moyu shattered space and teleported away. With each jump, his speed increased. Lin Moyu found it odd the direction pointed straight to the center of the technological world. The power of the physics Great Tao grew stronger. Lin Moyu even wondered if he was approaching the source of the physics Great Tao itself. If he could obtain its true form, that would be ideal. Half a day later, Lin Moyu stopped. According to the karmic thread, the Celestial God Realm was here. There were many restrictions in this place. The power of the Great Tao was thin, even the immortality Great Tao was affected. This was the first time this had happened before. No matter where he was, the immortality Great Tao was always transcendent and unchanged. Lin Moyu now witnessed the dominance of the physics Great Tao and how unsuited this place was for cultivation. Before him was a dense mist, with no sign of a world. But cause and effect doesn't lie. If it pointed here, then this was the place. The celestial god civilization must have used some method to hide itself. Not only them, but the celestial god realm was also here. After losing the war with the origin continent, the celestial god realm had left its old region, traveled for countless years, and returned here. In that war, the will of the celestial god realm was badly wounded and needed ages to recover. The celestial god civilization was its homeland. Returning here to recuperate was only natural. Their goal was eternity. Once they recovered, they would surely strike again. Lin Moyu released countless undead servants to search for the celestial god civilization. He found that his undead servants were in better condition than he was. They could use the physics Great Tao from the myriad worlds to counteract the influence, and with their chaotic attributes could still manipulate the local Great Taos. Their combat power was reduced, but not by much. They were still within the Tao Lord level. A thorough search yielded nothing. Not even the usual photon detectors could be found. I feel like I'm being watched. I must be in the right place. Even without photon detectors, the sense of being watched didn't disappear. Lin Moyu was certain the celestial god civilization was here. Since he couldn't find it, Lin Moyu didn't bother analyzing what methods they used. With a thought, he sent out hundreds of billions of undead servants, each occupying a region 1,000,000 miles wide. The undead formed formations, occupying vast swaths of the void. Their power surged, dispersing the world mist and revealing a wide expanse of space. Begin. At his command, the undead servants acted in unison, mobilizing the space Great Tao to shatter the void. Each undead servant focused on their own patch, breaking the void into pieces, unleashing chaotic spatial currents. Such large-scale spatial collapse was rare. Lin Moyu searched for the celestial god civilization amid the shattered space, but found nothing. Not here. Another 80 billion undead servants were sent out to a different region to try again. Still nothing. He tried several more regions, covering billions of miles, but still found nothing. That can't be. Lin Moyu didn't doubt his judgment. The karmic thread pointed here, unless An Yuyan had made a mistake. After thinking for a moment, Lin Moyu realized another possibility. The real-world space has more than one layer. The deepest layers can reach the origin ancestral land. He had only broken the surface layer if the celestial god civilization was hidden deeper. With this in mind, the undead servants acted again, this time targeting deeper layers of space. The Great Tao surged, breaking through layer after layer of space. Suddenly, a familiar aura emerged. Lin Moyu smiled. Found it. 3897, 3897. Chapter 3897, The Tao Forms Threads. The aura of the extraterritorial celestial gods was all too familiar to Lin Moyu. Thousands upon thousands of these beings, strong and weak, including their divine pets, had died by his hand. He could sense their presence from a great distance. In the deep layers of space, the celestial god civilization had used technological means to carve out an independent space, placing their entire civilization and the celestial god realm within it. That was why no one could detect their existence. The undead servants cleared a path for Lin Moyu, creating a passageway for him to enter at his leisure. The aura of the physics Great Tao grew stronger, its rules more intense. The moment he entered that layer of space, Lin Moyu saw another world. A single Great Tao spanned the space, standing unshaken amid the raging spatial currents. This Great Tao altered the surrounding rules. Spatial turbulence that would normally be ferocious became as gentle as sheep when striking the Tao. So domineering, no wonder it can't enter the origin ancestral land. If this Tao were placed with others, it would forcibly change the rules of the surrounding Taos. Lin Moyu had experience with this. In the myriad worlds, even the embryonic physics Great Tao already occupied its own domain, staying far from other Taos. On top of this Tao, countless extraterritorial celestial gods were active. The celestial god civilization had fused its world with the physics Great Tao. Beyond the Tao, there was another world, the celestial god realm. Outside the celestial god realm, a phantom appeared, their world will. Strangely, this world will was surrounded by all kinds of instruments, as if it was being treated for injuries. After being wounded, the celestial god realm had come here to recuperate, using technological power to help the world recover. Lin Moyu didn't understand how they did it, but they had managed. The world will of the celestial god realm was also different from a normally awakened world will. Lin Moyu's arrival immediately drew the attention of the celestial god civilization. A group of extraterritorial celestial gods with 10 pairs of wings flew out from the celestial god realm, standing in the spatial currents and staring hard at Lin Moyu. Their eyes were full of hostility, as if they'd met an enemy. All of them were Tao lords, their pressure immense, but compared to the undead servants, they still seemed a bit lacking. A beam of light shone in the void, and a 22-winged extraterritorial celestial god appeared, wearing a purple gold crown and regarding Lin Moyu coldly. "Cultivator from the origin continent, you actually chased us here." So they recognized me. Lin Moyu wasn't surprised. Since they could sever karma, they naturally understood cause and effect. Whether it was through mastery of the cause and effect Great Tao or through technological contact with causality weapons, they understood. Black Lin had also said the celestial god civilization possessed causality weapons, so it was no surprise they could recognize him. Lin Moyu smiled. "Yes, I'm surprised too. I didn't expect this to be your lair. 22-winged celestial god, you must be the leader. May I know your name?" The celestial god replied, "I am Lucifer. And you?" Lin Moyu smiled. "Lin Moyu of the human race. Well, now that we're acquainted, let's get to business. I'm here for one reason, to settle an old score. And I'm also interested in your technology and cultivation methods, so I'd like to study them." He added, "Of course, I know you won't hand them over, so I'm not here to ask, I'm here to take. Once I kill you all, these things will naturally be mine. Of course, you can destroy the data before you die, but that doesn't matter, I can resurrect you, so suicide is useless." Lin Moyu stated his intentions plainly, with no room for negotiation. He'd come to kill, not to bargain, so there was nothing more to say. After learning the relationship between the celestial god realm and the celestial god civilization, Lin Moyu had made up his mind to erase them from existence. Asking names was just to know who he was killing, nothing more. No longer interested in conversation, Lin Moyu waved his hand and sent the undead army charging forward. Even though there were more restrictions here and the undead servants were weakened, it was still within acceptable limits, and numbers could make up for it. As Lin Moyu moved, the extraterritorial celestial gods acted in unison. An invisible ripple spread, and the void echoed with incantations Lin Moyu couldn't understand, some kind of spell. The celestial gods with 20 wings quickly retreated, leaving space. Over 100 giant spheres, each 100 meters in diameter, suddenly appeared in the void, teleported directly in front of the undead army. Lin Moyu sensed something was wrong and immediately retreated. Boom! The spheres exploded, unleashing terrifying power that swept through the void. Countless undead servants were obliterated, reduced to dust. The force of these spheres was immense, even the undead servants couldn't withstand it. Layer after layer of space collapsed. This was deep space, separated from the surface by many layers. Huge holes appeared in the void, revealing the world mist of the surface layer. On the other side of the hole, Lin Moyu saw the origin ancestral land. This explosion had actually pierced through to the origin ancestral land in the real world. Of course, this was just a projection. The origin ancestral land exists between the real and virtual realms, influencing both. To enter the origin ancestral land, aside from great Tao lords, ordinary people can only enter through an entrance, which drifts through the world and only appears every tens of thousands of years. If you can reach the deepest layer of space and find the projection of the origin ancestral land, maybe you can enter without the entrance. Some have tried, but always fell just short. The explosion was immense, but faded quickly, and the spatial holes soon closed up. 100 sphere bombs had destroyed at least 1 million undead servants. But the next second, those undead servants reappeared from nothing, instantly revived. This resurrection ability was so unreasonable that even Lin Moyu, their master, found it unbelievable. The revived undead army charged forward again. The void was filled with turbulence, preventing the undead from using the space great Tao to teleport. The same was true for the celestial gods, but the celestial god civilization could still teleport in some bombs. Another wave of spherical bombs appeared in the void, this time even more numerous, blowing apart both space and the undead army. Lin Moyu shook his head. It's useless. The undead servants could die, but would revive in an instant. Still, Lin Moyu was curious, how were the undead servants dying? Since when could an origin Tao lord die so easily? Observing the void, Lin Moyu gradually noticed something. The void was filled with countless fine threads, extremely tiny, almost invisible. Normally, passing through them was harmless, they seemed not to exist. But when a bomb exploded, the threads instantly solidified, becoming tangible, and surged like waves, instantly slicing the undead servants into powder. The undead weren't being blown up, they were being shredded by the threads. And the essence of these threads was a great Tao, the Gold Earth Great Tao. 3898. 3898. Chapter 3898. It feels great to have no causality. Among the 5 elements Great Tao's metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, the metal Great Tao, also called sharp metal, is the sharpest. The earth Great Tao, called thick earth, is the most solid. The 5 elements generate and restrain each other. When metal and earth combine, they form the Gold Earth Great Tao, possessing both sharpness and toughness. The celestial god civilization stretched the Great Tao into threads thousands of times thinner than a hair. When not activated, these Taos exist in a void state. Once activated, they become solid and razor-sharp, able to slice through Tao lords. However, this method is only suitable for defense, not offense. Otherwise, just this ability alone would let the celestial god sweep the world. Lycong world compressed Taos into warships, celestial god civilization spun Taos into threads and wove them into webs. The ultimate limit of technology seems to always be dealing with the Great Tao, Lin Moyu muttered as the undead servants revived again and charged forward. They fear no death. If they die, they revive. Even if truly destroyed, they'll just be reborn in the chaos region of the myriad worlds. It's nearly impossible to kill them for good. The celestial god civilization clearly hadn't encountered such enemies before and was a bit stunned. But technological civilizations have intelligent brains. Even if the people are stunned, the intellect is not. Seeing that the web of Taos couldn't stop the undead army, the intellect immediately devised a new tactic. The Great Tao above shone brightly, illuminating the void, and countless hidden weapons appeared. Weapons were everywhere. This was the celestial god's home base, and as a 9th-level civilization, its defenses were the pinnacle of technological worlds. A massive barrage of weapons was unleashed, freezing the void. The undead army was instantly frozen in place, unable to move. The temperature of the entire space dropped to a terrifying low. Even Lin Moyu felt a bone-chilling cold, as if he might freeze to death. He suddenly recalled a technology from Black Mountain Civilization's data: spatial freezing. Freezing space isn't hard. What's hard is lowering the temperature to absolute zero. The physics Great Tao sets a minimum temperature. When anything in the world, be it living beings, matter, or even Taos, reaches that temperature, it stops functioning and dies. This is the rule set by the physics Great Tao. Upon entering, all including Lin Moyu and his undead servants are subject to it. The celestial god civilization had perfected this technology, achieving true absolute zero. Lin Moyu didn't know the exact value of absolute zero, but he knew the undead servants were frozen, unable to escape. In the outside world, no matter how cold it got, the undead could ignore it. But under the physics Great Tao, this temperature was fatal. The undead died, unable to revive in place. Even if they did, they'd die again. What a domineering Tao! This is probably more than just an origin Great Tao, Lin Moyu thought. It's known that Taos have origin and branch levels, but Lin Moyu believed there was a level above origin like his immortality Great Tao. The physics Great Tao seemed to be at that level. Only Taos of the same tier could affect his immortality Tao. Looking at the physics Great Tao suspended in the void, Lin Moyu realized it represented a different set of rules, entirely unlike those of cultivation worlds. A thought arose in his mind: I must obtain it. He instinctively felt that acquiring this Tao would be immensely beneficial. He wanted to make the myriad worlds more diverse, and the physics Great Tao was an excellent choice. Although the myriad worlds already had an embryonic physics Great Tao, it would take countless years to strengthen it. If he could get the true body of the physics Great Tao, he could save endless time. With a wave, another 100 billion undead surged forth, splitting into 10 groups and attacking from all directions. Behind Lin Moyu, the phantom of the myriad worlds appeared. Without the suppression of the world mist, the myriad worlds could cover a vast area. A not very strong physics Great Tao shone brilliantly, causing a resonance with the distant physics Great Tao and changing the rules again. The frozen undead servants began to emit flames. The fire Great Tao enveloped them as they fought back against absolute zero. Lin Moyu had created an opportunity for them. Upon revival, the undead immediately resisted. By manipulating the physics great Tao within the myriad worlds, he forcibly changed the rules, redefining the world around him. He might not understand technology, but he understood Tao's. He was adept at playing with rules. Boom! A beam of light suddenly descended from above, like a waterfall crashing down on him. Lin Moyu grunted as his body exploded. In a blaze of purple light, Lin Moyu was reborn. A causality weapon. He had just died once under the attack of a causality weapon. If he hadn't had the rebirth ability, he'd be truly dead. The attack had detonated his own karma. He had a lot of karma, and it was deeply rooted in his soul, so the explosion was incredibly powerful. The detonation of karma ignored his spells. The damage wasn't shared by his Tao spirit. Since the causality attack came from his own soul, it made sense the damage wasn't shared. After being reborn, Lin Moyu felt completely refreshed. With no more karma, his soul felt light. Lin Moyu chuckled, so this is what it feels like to have no karma. So refreshing. Thanks. If it were anyone else, detonating their karma would leave them crippled if not dead. For Lin Moyu, it was a blessing in disguise. He used to go to great lengths to sever karma. If he'd known this, he could have just found someone with the cause and effect great Tao to detonate it for him. There are no such people in the origin continent, but there must be some in the Jianmu Great Spirit domain, or he could always find an Yuan. Lin Moyu grinned. Courtesy demands reciprocity. I have a little something for you in return. With a wave, world-burning fire shot out, streaking through the void toward the celestial god realm. At the same time, Bone Hell turned into a crimson cloud and flew out, while several elemental liches appeared on Lin Moyu's shoulder. The Space Tao Lich waved its little hand and called out, "Gate of space, open." Forcibly activating teleportation in deep space, with the true body of the space great Tao, even the physics great Tao couldn't fully suppress it. 2 space gates opened, helping world-burning fire and Bone Hell jump through space and descend directly. World-burning fire exploded outside the celestial god realm, rapidly spreading. The world will of the celestial god realm roared in fury, slapping at the flames. The fire only burned brighter. After refining several worlds, world-burning fire had grown much stronger. It could now forcibly refine worlds. The world will was clearly not fully recovered, roaring and slapping repeatedly, but only slowing the fire, not stopping it. The strongest celestial gods rushed to help, but to little effect. World-burning fire quickly spread inside the world, with countless people screaming as they fled. Bone Hell descended on the physics great Tao, the very foundation of the celestial god civilization, into which they had fused their world. But Bone Hell didn't care. It expanded to its maximum range, biting everything in sight. A sea of robots surged out of the celestial god civilization, wielding warblades to fight Bone Hell's wraiths. Each wraith had near Tao Lord strength and was utterly fearless. The undead army drew ever closer to the celestial god civilization. In the void, red lights flashed as gigantic statues awakened one after another. 3899, 3899. Chapter 3899, The Great Battle. Watching the awakened statues, Lin Moyu realized they had been hidden in the void by the celestial god civilization using technological means. Even he hadn't noticed them before. Technology truly could accomplish some miraculous feats, but ultimately, this path had an end. It could not reach eternity. These statues were like miniature, replicated versions of world wills, but without the power of a world to drive them. The celestial god civilization had embedded great Taos within them to provide energy. 1,000 statues revived, wielding various weapons, and clashed fiercely with the undead servants. Their weapons were also forged from a combination of great Taos and technology, making them extremely powerful. Every strike could shatter the void and destroy Taos. Although there were only 1,000 statues, they managed to withstand the direct assault of nearly 10,000 times their number in undead. The combat strength these statues displayed far surpassed that of ordinary origin Tao lords, rivaling some of the top world lords. Lin Moyu categorized Tao lords into 4 tiers. The weakest are ordinary Tao lords, whether branch or origin Tao lords. These are projection Tao lords, the most common type. The second tier is world lords, who control the power of a world combined with their own Tao, greatly increasing their strength. Among world lords, there are strong and weak like Woodkill World Lord, who is among the strongest, far surpassing ordinary world lords. The third tier is great Tao lords, who fully control the true body of a great Tao and can enter the origin ancestral land at will, wielding immense power. The fourth tier is the likes of an Yuan, also called Eternal, who have reached the absolute pinnacle of Tao lords. Lin Moyu was still far from this level. Even with a trillion undead servants, before such beings, they were like ants. Lin Moyu understood this well, as did An Yuyan, so when she learned Lin Moyu had been chosen as the vessel for the Lord of Curses, she could only wish him luck. The 1,000 statues unleashed top world lord level power, facing the endless undead army without fear. By combining technology and great Daos, and leveraging the powerful restrictions of the physics great Dao, they withstood attacks from forces billions of times their own size. They demonstrated to Lin Moyu that the gap in realms is not easily bridged by numbers alone, not impossible, but extremely difficult. To achieve a qualitative change through quantity would require astronomical numbers. However, Lin Moyu was not anxious. The current situation was favorable. The world-burning fire was blazing fiercely, forcibly refining the celestial god realm, and bone hell was devouring the celestial god civilization along the great Dao. The ones who should be worried were his enemies. Taking this opportunity, Lin Moyu carefully observed the statues. They were incredibly strong. If he could understand their workings, it might benefit him greatly. The celestial god civilization was a top-tier technological civilization, but later split off the celestial god realm, embarking on a path combining technology and cultivation. After a while, Lin Moyu realized his knowledge of technology was too limited to fully understand what he was seeing. Still, he deduced some information. During the origin cataclysm, if the celestial god realm had possessed such statues, even one would have guaranteed the origin continent's defeat. So why didn't they use them? Was it because they couldn't? Lin Moyu quickly found the answer. It wasn't that they didn't want to, but that they truly couldn't. The statues' immense power stemmed from the physics great Dao. The physics great Dao set the rules of this region. Under its influence, technology could exert enormous power, even suppressing other Daos. That's why technological civilizations could manipulate Daos, compressing them into warships, spinning them into threads and webs. But these techniques only worked at home. Outside the range of the physics great Dao, they were useless. This explained why the many technological worlds, seemingly strong, could only cower within this region. Perhaps the worlds in the Tianyu Great Spirit domain were a bit better. They were less affected by the physics great Dao and retained cultivation systems. But even then, once outside the physics great Dao's influence, the power of technology dropped sharply, and against other strong worlds, they were easy prey. Lin Moyu understood this and considered how to introduce such technology into his own myriad worlds. If he could create similar weapons combining technology and Daos. With the myriad world's influence on its surroundings, he would be even more confident facing the world will of the origin continent. For now, he needed help, but if he could handle it himself, that would be ideal. His heart burned with desire to claim the celestial god civilization's technology for himself. He didn't need to learn it personally, he could train others. The myriad worlds had countless beings, there would always be a way. Lin Moyu also began to form deeper, bolder ideas for the myriad worlds, a brand new path unique to him. He whispered to the space Dao Lich beside him, "Go search the Dao for their technical data." Lin Moyu shaped a crystal in his hand. Perhaps the celestial god civilization stored some of their technology in such crystals. The space Dao Lich, small and adept at hiding in space, instantly teleported to the Dao. On the Dao, the celestial god civilization's territory was densely packed with buildings, many of them inverted triangles and visually similar, making searching difficult. But Lin Moyu trusted the little one. The space Dao Lich quickly explored the area through spatial sensing, instantly grasping the layout. Buildings meant nothing to it. It flitted through the celestial god civilization's world like a ghost, searching at incredible speed. Lin Moyu didn't worry about it. He believed the little one would succeed. With a snap of his fingers, another 100 billion undead servants charged forth, splitting up to attack both the celestial god civilization and the celestial god realm. While numbers can't easily compensate for a gap in strength, Lin Moyu enjoyed using quantity to trigger qualitative change. His strategy was simple. Even if not a match, surround and tie up the enemy, making it impossible for them to break free. That's the advantage of numbers. Unless you can instantly kill billions of undead, you'll be pinned down. He'd used this approach many times before. It was as natural as eating or drinking, requiring no thought. Let's see if you have any other tricks to stop me. Meanwhile, things looked grim for the celestial god realm. No matter what they tried, they couldn't extinguish the world-burning fire, only delay it. The world will of the celestial god realm howled in agony. It felt no pain, but still sensed suffering. On the great Dao, things were slightly better, but it too was being gradually devoured. The celestial god civilization finally acted again. A multicolored shield appeared outside the Tao, enveloping the entire Great Tao. At the same time, countless humanoid battle machines swarmed out to attack the undead servants. These machines weren't strong, only at the Great Tao realm, and were no match for the undead. But when destroyed, they self-destructed, and their explosions were powerful enough to scatter many undead. The web of Taos in the void was reactivated, slicing the undead servants to pieces. 3900. 3900. Chapter 3900. War of Attrition. The undead servants kept reviving and continued their assault. Each attack was like a map-wide bombardment, covering vast areas and preventing the humanoid battle machines from getting close. The undead servants' tactics were flexible and ever-changing, constantly adapting to the battlefield and making optimal choices. They could also share information and coordinate with each other, achieving extremely high efficiency. Since the humanoid battle machines would self-destruct, the undead simply pulled back, staying out of the explosion range. Suddenly, the humanoid battle machines sprouted wings of fire, which tore open rifts in space. They dove into the void, appearing among the undead as if teleporting, and detonated right in their midst. The undead, having just adjusted their tactics, were caught off guard again, suffering heavy casualties. The intelligent brain controlling the battle machines adapted even faster than the undead, and was more decisive. The undead seemed enraged and quickly spread out, putting great distance between each other. This way, the explosions of the battle machines could only affect a small number of them. Relying on their numbers, the undead resumed a war of attrition with the battle machines. Within the physics Great Tao, more waves of humanoid battle machines surged forth. Lin Moyu saw countless factories operating within the physics Great Tao, churning out battle machines like dumplings and sending them straight to the battlefield. There were so many of these factories that every second, a huge number of new battle machines were produced. Where did they get so many materials? Lin Moyu wondered. Manufacturing battle machines was like refining magic treasures. It required corresponding materials. He didn't believe the celestial god civilization had endless resources. In any case, he could keep summoning more undead servants, so he wasn't afraid of a war of attrition. With a thought, another 100 billion undead servants charged out. If you can build them fast, I'll put on the pressure. Let's see how fast you really are. Lin Moyu felt like he was whipping the celestial god civilization, all while shouting encouragement. From start to finish, Lin Moyu treated this battle as a game. He'd already compared his strength to the celestial god realm and found he had the advantage even with the celestial god civilization added in. As long as no eternal level being appeared, he could keep fighting. He might not be able to defeat the statue warriors directly, but he could hold them off until he finished refining the celestial god realm, dealt with the celestial god civilization, and maybe even took the physics Great Tao. Without the physics Great Tao, the statue warriors would collapse on their own. After the undead spread out, the threat from the humanoid battle machines dropped sharply. At that moment, countless spires rose from within the Great Tao. Beneath each spire was an altar, and under the altar, the celestial god race's signature inverted triangle houses. The houses lit up, the altars grew brighter, and after a few seconds, the spires shone as well. Bolts of lightning burst from the spires, blasting the void and striking the undead servants with immense force, reducing them to dust. This isn't ordinary lightning, Lin Moyu observed, squinting at the flickering arcs. The lightning was just the surface, the real attack was the blades hidden within. What looked like a lightning strike was actually countless blades, far thinner than a hair, slicing the undead apart. Lin Moyu realized these blades were refined from the Great Tao and enhanced by technology. They were semi-transparent, wrapped in lightning, and thus extremely hard to spot. Once again, the celestial god civilization's methods exceeded Lin Moyu's expectations. For the first time, he felt on the back foot against a peak technological world. The celestial god civilization was like a giant hedgehog bristling with defenses and hard to attack. So far, the world-burning fire was the most effective, but even its progress was slow. At this rate, it would take years to refine the celestial god realm. And he suspected he hadn't even seen all their tricks yet. After countless years at the pinnacle of technology, they must have more hidden away. As he pondered, a light flashed overhead. Lin Moyu's expression changed, but the sword Dao Lich reacted even faster, transforming into a sword and slashing upward. A beam of light shot down, ignoring the sword Dao Lich's attack and striking Lin Moyu directly, blowing him apart. He revived instantly. A causality weapon, he muttered. This was the second time he'd been killed by a causality weapon. When such a weapon targeted him, it was guaranteed to hit. There was no way to dodge, no way to block, not even the sword Dao Lich could cut off the causality. He could only take the hit. Luckily, he could revive. But every effect has a cause. If attacking him is the effect, what is the cause? For someone of his strength, setting him as the target must require a hefty price. He looked toward the physics great Tao, where a section of the celestial god civilization's world suddenly exploded. There were countless statues there, each shaped like a 24-winged celestial god. There were more than 100,000 such statues. One of them exploded, shaking the void, but the power wasn't that great. The surrounding statues were unaffected. Outside the statues stood a giant structure resembling a cannon, aimed right at him. With just one glance, Lin Moyu knew it was a causality weapon. And those statues were the price. The celestial god civilization had developed causality weapons, so they knew the price for using them. They created their own price. Every time they attacked him, one statue would shatter. By this logic, they could attack him 100,000 times, kill him 100,000 times. Lin Moyu felt a headache coming on. The celestial god civilization was truly tough to deal with. He studied the causality weapon and the statues, gradually figuring out some details. Causality weapons are powerful, but not easy to use. Besides the causality cost, they require immense energy, and after each use, need time to recharge. They also have to establish a causality link with the statues, so their attack frequency can't be too high. Realizing this, Lin Moyu felt much more confident. His rebirth ability would recover in a short time. As long as he wasn't killed repeatedly in rapid succession, he'd be fine. He could keep dying and reviving endlessly. In the end, it was a war of attrition, not just for the undead army, but for himself as well. But this couldn't go on forever. Who knew how much the celestial god civilization had in reserve, or how long they could keep it up? Lin Moyu pondered his next move as another 100 billion undead servants charged out. By now, he'd sent out 400 billion undead servants, yet still hadn't broken through the enemy's defenses or even touched their shield. The battle was progressing at a snail's pace. As he thought, the light above flashed again. This time, the Blood Dao Lich intervened, sending a crimson wave to meet the attack, but the attack passed through as if it were nothing and struck Lin Moyu again. He was killed by the causality weapon once more, only to revive in a flash of purple light. Whenever the causality weapon was activated, it hit its target without fail. There was no way to dodge or block it. Killed again and again, reviving again and again, Lin Moyu's eyes suddenly lit up as he discovered something. Here, it seems there's no limit to how many undead I can have.